Welcome in, Smite fans, to the first game of Week 2 of the SDL. We have a great game for you to start off the week here. Daddy Daycare on the left side of your spectator UI, and Fenyx on the right side. My name is Frog. I'm joined today by Rogue. Rogue, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited to see this match tonight.
I am excited, well, especially after a fun week 1 we had across the Reap Smite League. A lot of spicy picks coming out in week number 1. A lot of things coming out that I wasn't necessarily expecting to see. I know that you had your eye on a couple of those picks. Is there anything that stood out to you from week 1 that you're maybe expecting to see here in week 2?
Well, I don't think we're going to be seeing anything like an AMC pick this week, but I am very interested in seeing what these mid pickups are this week. With Priscilla being banned out already, we still have three top mid laners open with Persephone, Tiamat, and Morgan Le Fay.
Yeah, Raijin absolutely up there as well. We saw a lot of those mage prioritization towards the last week, and it's actually a good tip of the hat towards the mid lane for Daddy Gaycare, as they are playing this week with a substitute player in the mid lane role, and Fenyx will be playing with a substitute player in the support role and in the jungle role. So that mid 3v3 has a sub from from one of each team at this point. And it's interesting because we did see both of these teams go undefeated so far, both winning their first week matchup. So I expect that we will see a good match, but we could see some weaknesses, some strengths coming out of these sub players.
And as we see now, the final ban coming in is Persephone, and a Cerberus is going to be locked in on the side of Daddy Daycare.
Yeah, we do see pretty typical bans across the top of the screen. I'm a little bit surprised at the Izanami. I'm not sure that she is above Rama right now, but maybe we'll see that pick rewarded later on. But we do see that Cerberus first pick, and that leaves open two major picks on the other side. Gilgamesh and Tiamat both locked in for the other team. What are your thoughts on that top two?
This is already looking like a very strong comp. You have the Gilgamesh, which is most likely going to be in the jungle. The Winds of Samash are going to cause a lot of problems for the backline, and I think we all know the power of Tiamat's minions.
Yeah, Tiamat's minions and the rest of her kit, frankly, putting on a ton of damage in that mid lane role. Now, we do have the Cerberus locked in over here on the left side, and something that we saw a lot last week was the prevalence of these Guardian solos. Do you expect that to be where Cerberus ends up?
I do actually. I know that a little bit of inside information here that Dom has been practicing his Guardian solo, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cerberus go over to him. And he did play the RDO in both of the games last week, and we saw that banned out.
And not surprised to see that prioritized here at the front. And we do see that Rama pickup, as I mentioned. A little bit surprised to not see that banned out if we were going to ban out any ADCs, but perhaps a comfort pick that we're not aware of. We see that Rama lock in. That's undoubtedly going towards that ADC role. And I was going to ask you where this Osiris is going, but I guess he is likely to go into that jungle role if Cerberus is going to flex into the solo role. I mean, do you still think that Osiris is a top end pick right now?
I personally think he is. He's very annoying to play against, to say the least. The tether reducing damage and stunning at the very end, and also with the ultimate taking away all of the healing, which is something that Tiamat can do if she gets an assist on anything. So I think it's a good pickup into their comp.
Definitely going to bring the pressure here on the side of Daddy Daycare. We do see the third and final lock in for the top three here on the side of Phoenix. It's going to be Cullen, not a god that I think we see a ton of, but a reliable pick to go back to time and time again in the solo lane.
Yeah, back in the day, we used to talk about having a pocket Wukong, but nowadays I feel more like it's a pocket Cullen. That's exactly what we see here, being the last pick for the first wave of picks for Phoenix.
And we talked a little bit earlier on about how those mid lane mages would definitely be important, as we saw two of those banned in the initial ban phase, and we'll see Raijin banned out in the secondary ban phase for Phoenix alongside the Fafnir, and so they predict that Cerberus going towards the solo role as well, it looks like. And another support banned out by the side of Daddy Daycare in the Ymir, as well as the On Her being focused down. So that's now two Hunter bans off the table for Daddy Daycare, as well as another Hunter ban, another Hunter pick on the side of Daddy Daycare. And I was gonna ask you, where do you think they go with this ADC pick? But looks like they're hovering this Medusa. Do you think that's the right direction?
I think it could possibly be a very good pick into the Osiris. You know, you dash away from the Osiris when he blinks in, and you turn around, ult him, and stun him. You either force his beads or you pour lots of damage into him. I think it's a great pick in the Osiris.
Definitely a pick that's known for its boxing prowess and able to consistently hit that entire wave with that acid spray. So a contender for Rama over there in that dual lane. But quickly, those last two picks locked in for the side of Daddy Daycare. Discordia in the mid lane and Guan Yu picked up. We may have to rethink what we were saying about where that Cerberus is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, we could always see something like a Guan Yu support, but I highly doubt that now with the Guan Yu pick. Most of the times when you pick up a Guan Yu, you're going to look to put him in the solo lane. And finishing out the draft on Phoenix's side, we have a Sobek.
And Sobek, I think, likely to go into that support role as well. The Kukulkan not known for his support prowess really at all. And to me, that Guan Yu pick seems like a response. It seems like maybe early on in the draft they were planning on going towards the Cerberus solo lane, but maybe with that Kukulkan pick specifically, you end up leaning towards this Guan Yu. I mean, do you think Guan has the favorable matchup in that lane?
I mean, he definitely has a lot of sustain in his kit with his heal. You know, he has his ultimate, you know, hopping on a horse, riding down the lane, causing havoc. You can definitely play very safe on him if they're worried about maybe the Gilgamesh camping the solo lane. But another thing that is maybe underrated with Guan Yu is that with his Tallow Assault, the protection shred is actually going to hit this team out pretty hard when she's in her crown stance.
That's a great point. Reducing the effectiveness of that passive in the melee stance from Tiamat. Definitely something that gets overlooked, as well as the knockback immunity in that Tallow Assault as well. Going to prevent the effectiveness of the Kukulkan ult, of the Gilgamesh drop kick as well. Two abilities getting nullified by that Tallow Assault. So Guan definitely has some effectiveness here. I will say now, looking at both drafts, like we have the full draft in front of us, I think we can feel pretty confident about where everybody's going to go. I feel a little bit more confident about the draft of Phoenix. And I'm wondering if you're sharing that opinion. Just to me, it doesn't seem like it seems like on the side of Daddy Daycare, they've got this one giant CC ability in the form of Cerberus's ult, and maybe not a ton of beads burn outside of that, and so I'm not sure where the effectiveness is going to be, or where the team fight direction or synergy is really going to line up. And so I'm leaning towards the Tiamat Gilgamesh, two proven picks, the Sobek's pick ability. Do you align with me on that?
I 100% completely agree. I look at the draft of Phoenix and I see a Gilgamesh jumping in the back line causing havoc while a Tiamat sits there and just spams buttons because she has like 10 abilities. And on the side of Daddy Daycare, I don't know who the real peeler is going to be for their team, as all three of their front line really like to dive. I mean, Cerberus has a stun and he has that, you know, big ultimate of picking them up and displacing them, but one good beads and the Gilgamesh is just going to run at this Rama and run at this Discordia.
One thing I will say about this dive composition, though, is the Rama tends to be able to follow up, with that Osiris, with that Cerberus, with that Guan Yu as they dive into the backline. The Rama can assist from a distance, so we'll see if he's able to get that damage off. But we are ready to jump into this first game. So without any further ado, we'll get it going. And I think we were correct on the role predictions. I like to see both the Warriors and solo, both the supports both the Guardians in the support role. So the first thing I'm taking a look at is these builds, and I'm wondering if there's anything on the screen that pops out to you.
Well, the first thing that I see is that I actually see a Sunder pickup by the Cerberus on the side of Daddy Daycare, which is interesting. We've sort of seen Sunder fall out of the meta due to all the nerfs. But on the other side, for the support of Phoenix, we see the Sobek elect to go multi potions instead of getting a hog, which means his purple buff clear isn't going to be as good, and it looks like the side of Daddy Daycare will be able to get the wave pressure and pick up that Alpha Harpy already.
And they've definitely started on the front foot here in this dual lane. And I tend to agree with you with the Sunder pickup. I think it has its moments. Hold that thought. Sobek will take a little bit of damage here, missing the pluck. That Sunder gets popped. Stun off the mark, though, for Cerberus. Unfortunately, not going to be able to finish off that early kill.
And you can see right there the value that the Sunder still has, right? If you get the Sunder early, you hit that Cerber result, that's a dead Sobek.
Yeah, and if only that stun had connected, they would have been on the board for first blood, but still maintaining pressure over in that dual lane, more than halfway up the lane. And the junglers still spending their time over in mid. And I'm interested in your thoughts on the maybe ideal jungle pathing or jungle play style in the early stages of the game right now. To me, it feels like all the junglers are on the same page when it comes to, okay, get the speed, get the backs, and then spend a little bit of time fighting over the mid camps. And then from there, a lot of junglers digress as to which direction to go. You can see both of them went the same direction this time around. They're both backing a little bit early here, but some like to gank duo early, some like to gank solo early. Is that a direction you would have liked to see explored here?
Necessarily, I mean, the Gilgamesh didn't pick up Blink as his first relic, so his gank potential pre level 5 might not be that great. Um, he can't Blink drop kick anybody, so he's going to have to wait for his ultimate to come online before he can start to really find any sort of effectiveness with his ganks.
Yeah, definitely hesitating on the aggression there from the Gilgamesh from that build. Picked up the Boomba's Dagger as well, generally known as a more later game item going into that Boomba's Spear and getting that 20% cooldown there. But we did see the Osiris pick up the Blink, and he's typically a god that I think of. He doesn't get as much effectiveness out of the Blink as some other gods. Like he doesn't have the immediate damage that maybe Gilgamesh does.
Yeah, I definitely think I would have maybe rather seen a beads from the Osiris, because when you talk about the mid 3v3, a Sobek pluck onto an Osiris that hasn't built any sort of defensive items can be devastating for him, forcing an ultimate or forcing his team to be in a bad position when it comes to those mid fights.
We did just see that blink expended from Osiris in the mid lane, but didn't get anything out of it. But we might see some more action here. An early rotation from this Kakulin, starting to get that damage off onto Osiris, but only the ultimate in the rage form to get that damage off. And Osiris falls a little bit low, but Tiamat was a little bit too far back. But a really interesting early rotation, sub 5 minutes from the soul laner. I mean, it looks to me like this Kakulin definitely wants to get involved, and he went blink early to start maybe getting involved even in these early gold fights.
Yeah, I like the idea coming out of the Kakulin of rotating the mid at level 5, trying to get pressure off. We see a Discordia out there almost bring down uh, Gilgamesh there. But going back to the Kakulin, I think the safer play or the better play would have been to look towards the back camps if he had pressure in lane to sort of really start to build his lead.
Yeah, we did see him force out that horse from the Guan Yu a little bit earlier, so certainly seems to be getting the better end of that lane, at least this early on. We have seen a support rotation a little bit earlier on in on the side of Daddy Daycare as compared to the side of Phoenix. Is Sobek still lingering over here in the dual lane? I mean, do you think Jargon on the Cerberus has gone a little bit earlier? Or do you think Sobek may be overstaying a little bit?
I think you can look at it from both perspectives. I think that staying in the dual lane as a support until you can afford the Gauntlet of Thieves is preferred. Rotating to mid, you have a little bit of health from the tier 2 of that item, but you're not going to be able to get the protections from the stacks or, the gold you need. So I think staying in duo is probably the better call there.
Looks like neither support able to get that full Gauntlet of Thebes on their first back there, but Cerberus finishing it off now. Sobek likely pretty close as well, so we'll see that item start to get stacked up by both supports here. I will say there's a pretty major difference in terms of the supports, in terms of what role they might occupy during a team fight, or even during and standoffish engagement in the mid lane, right? I mean, Sobek feels to me like he's looking for those plucks whereas Cerberus really wants to get down and dirty, just sort of do the damage or maybe hit some poke. But hold that thought, First Blood might be coming out a little bit earlier, not able to get the CC immunity from the ult off in time, and Crucifix falling for First Blood, taken down by an early gank in the solo lane.
That's really quite unfortunate for the side of Fenyx because they did have a lead in that solo lane, but a great rotation from the Osiris. There were no wards on the map. Uh, Osiris and the Guan Yu did expend their ults, so that is something maybe Fenyx can look at if they're trying to look at the bright side of things. But yeah, great rotation from the Osiris leads to First Blood.
Looks like some pings coming out in the jungle, wants to get into another engagement, forcing the jump out from Gilgamesh, but Guan's on the front side. Neither ultimate available for this engagement, but it does look like the Winds of Samash will come out from that other side. Not enough to keep him alive, though. Robin Flare falling, and an early 1,000 gold lead for Daddy Daycare.
And this could be a huge kill right here. Putting the Gilgamesh behind means that Daddy Daycare can start looking for the jungle invades, looking for the back camps or the blue buffs. They already have pressure in the duo lane, so that means this Osiris can basically just stay in solo side and make sure this Kakullan can't regain any sort of momentum.
And you do see him steal some, or excuse me, pick up his back camps as he backs to base right there. And it looks like a pretty big item spike for him as well, choosing to go into that tier 2 defense, likely to be a Berserker shield, I would think, could also be a Shifter shield. But it's also looking like double flat pen coming out of the Gilgamesh. So two, I think, 2 for 2 when we're talking about interesting jungle builds. Do you like the pass that they're going here?
I much rather have seen the Gilgamesh go for more of something what like the Osiris is building. Typically when you think of a Gilgamesh, you think of more of a auto attack based character with his one slowing and doing damage. So I think that you're going to see the difference in the two builds really start to appear later into these mid 3v3 fights.
And that I think pairs well with what we were talking about earlier, not going the blink early on the side of Gilgamesh. So maybe looking for more bursty engagements, more bursty plays, but we will see an invade here trying to secure this purple buff. Won't successfully do it, but trying to get the kill instead. Not on target with the Lord of the Afterlife, and as a result, Medusa is able to escape relatively easily. So 0 for 2 on that front from Bearded Bro, and he might try and go back in if Medusa overstays a little bit, but at this point he's just losing farm.
Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate that he didn't secure the purple buff, but I don't hate the idea of invading on this duo side, even though they already had pressure, because to me, duo side is more important in the early game with the Gold Fury Scorpion. Gold Fury, and when that spawns, the Gold Fury is going to, but we see a blink here by the Osiris looking in for more. The Medusa's going to dash away, nothing's going to come of it.
He's continually staying over in this left lane as we do see the ult expended here in the mid lane. 2 ults now onto the Sobek. Looks like they have brought him down a little bit low, but not as low as Cerberus. And as we see them standing next to each other, I recognize that 2-level deficit that we see in the support role. Not something that I've been keeping track of, but Cerberus clearly farming a little bit better, and that allows me to look at his build as well, going into a pen item right off the bat.
And if I had a guess, being a support main myself, I would assume that this would either be a Spear of Desolation or a Spear of the Magus. Spear of Desolation on support is highly, highly underrated. Every time you get a kill or an assist, your cooldowns get time subtracted off of them, which means you're going to be able to slow or stun the enemies more, which is going to allow you to turn team fights.
I like to hear that. All the casters are support mains. I mean, let me tell you, all the best casters are support mains. So we'll get a virtual high five for that because I share that role as well. But I tend to agree with the pen direction here. Could also be Spear the Magus, as you mentioned, a little bit of life steal coming out on that item, and the ability to allow your teammates to do more damage. Never going to be a bad thing. But we will see Robin try and emulate the actions of Bearded over here, putting some focus on this duo lane. But Cerberus is in the area if he chooses to try and defend. Now on his way over to this purple buff, we see some pings come out Robin Flair, I think, able to secure this, but we see if he gets the final think, and he does get the final tick, and he's forced to jump away at low HP. Rama does have the ultimate available, choosing not to go into it quite yet, and he's in the air now looking for the snipes. Hits one, hits two, needs the third, not on target. Cerberus might still be in range, though, looking for the snipe. Will get it done. Jaragon with that kill, and we also saw a kill over in the soul lane, so action happening in both side lanes across the map.
And I think the outcome of this is going to favor Daddy Daycare being a 2-for-1. They get a kill on the left side, they get a kill on the right side, and only lose one player total. And that's just going to further their lead in this game.
Yeah, and it looks like they want to keep up this pressure on the left side of the map. They do get that purple invade successfully, so it's purple for purple, but might see Rama in a little bit of trouble here. No ultimate to save his life, and Sobek on the back end. Cerberus is still here to defend, but we'll see if Sobek tries to get this pluck out. Ends up going onto the Cerberus with no jump, but it might be a turnaround onto the Medusa, already half HP. Sunder popped, but forced out to half HP, and Sobek overstaying maybe a little bit too long. Wasn't on the same page as Waddle, not getting out of there in time, and it might be Guan not getting out of here in time as well. Both soul laners rotating over towards this mid lane. Another 2-level deficit we'll see on the Kukulkan, but no action coming out here.
And it looks like they're going to start pulling the Gold Fury, but maybe it's just a bait.
Yeah, Osiris started that early on, but did not look like Jaragon was on the same page. He chose to back early on, and we'll see a couple different members back from both teams. But what are your thoughts on that left lane engagement and on this Spear of Desolation? Couple different things to talk about as we happen across the map there, but seems like we've all of a sudden gone from no action to quite a bit of action in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, going back to the fight in the duo lane where we see the Sobek go down, the Sobek ulted to slow the players of Daddy Daycare, which is the right move. I completely agree with it. But he tried to stick around them and to get that damage off. And I think the safer play is to just slow them down and make sure they can't get to your carry.
Yeah, absolutely on the money there. Is we will keep our focus around this dual lane. I think one part I really want to focus on is this Rama, but it might be Gilgamesh falling earlier on. Robin Flair, that's the third time he's been in a rough spot. 0-3 start to this game, and yet another 2-level deficit seen in the jungle roll, and it might be another kill in the mid lane. Bearded with a double kill, putting on a show now, a 3-level lead in this jungle roll. He's been absolutely dominant thus far, and it looks like 4 or 5 members here to pull this Gold Fury Medusa. On the way in, near towards the objective, but not going to be able to steal good zoning from Guan Yu, and nobody else will get here in time. Daddy Daycare with a good couple of picks and a clean Gold Fury secure.
There's not much else to say but clean for that fight, as we see a little bit of an engage onto the Sobek here.
Clean engage onto the Sobek, and he will fall. That is the substitute player as well as the jungle role. Both substitute players falling a little bit short for their team right now. We'll see if they're able to pick back up later. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on as we move to the 5v5s here, right? I mean, right now we've seen picks, we've seen a couple of ganks in either roles, right? Jungle's absolutely having a field day right now on the Osiris, but 5v5s are a different beast. So are 4v4s. Once we get into those team fights, who are you favoring?
I'm definitely favoring the side of Daddy Daycare. I mean, if you look at the levels, every single member of Daddy Daycare is ahead of their opponent. And so in these team fights, even if it's a 5v5 fight, it's going to favor Daddy Daycare purely on level. Not to mention that, this Rama is about to get his Silver Branch bow, and he's just going to be hitting that much harder.
And that's why I was said earlier, focus on this dual lane. Die Violently had quite the performance last week, but it's Kukulkan not having the performance of a lifetime right here under some pressure over in the solo lane, choosing to stand still at the end of that one, accepting death, as that's the third gank, I believe, coming out towards that solo lane. 6 deaths, 1 and 6 from the solo jungle combo on the side of Fenyx. Your duo that's supposed to be diving the backline is, faltering right now, not having a good game, but it might be Robin Flair trying to get an engagement going, but a 3v2 early on. Winja Shamash, we'll see if it's enough to save his life. It's certainly enough to put Bearded in the dirt. Turning around there to get their first kill of the game. Won't be Robin and won't go to him. It will go instead to Commodity. Good kill onto the mid laner there, and we'll see if this team mat can prove its first pick prowess, but it might be Discordia instead under some trouble in the mid lane, and Tiamat's been turned around on quickly. Guan Yu coming in with the ultimate, and that damage will be secured. Commodity falling for his trade kill earlier, and Sobek might be in some trouble as Ram is now rotated in, falling fast, low health bar, forced to dash away, but it's now 4 members here in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I think what they should have maybe done after this pick is try and push for a T1 or even maybe possibly look at this Pyromancer, which they're now pinging out. I think that would have been an ideal situation if they had recognized that.
It looks like they're choosing to come over here towards this dual lane instead. Maybe the option to push down this tier 1 tower. Soul laner located over here as well. Rama not in the vicinity quite yet, but he's pushing up the lane to join them, and Guan Yu will have that heal if they chose to stick around, but remembers rotating over from Fenyx now might not be the best scenario. Kakoan looping it on the back. Great Blink
Great ult.
ultimate, getting 2 members, forcing Guan Yu into that ultimate. Good double stun from him as well. 2 for 2 on the ultimate. Sunder popped onto the Kakoan, but it might be Cerberus forced to jump away. Now Guan being the target, and Rama forced into the air. 1 snipe, 2 snipe takes him out. The third will just be damage on top. Both tanks a little bit weak, and Rama as well. All getting away, surviving though, and 1 kill towards the sides of Daddy Daycare.
What started out as a great engagement from the Kakolan ended up being something that was unfavorable for the side of Phoenix. You saw the Kakolan blink in, get a huge knockup, but the double stun from the Guan Yu ultimate to try and peel himself and as well as the Cerberus away and to allow the rest of the team to get there to pour in the damage. I mean, the Rama just in the back hitting his autos and then hitting the snipes to finish it off.
Yeah, good plays from Die Violently there on the Rama, having a fantastic performance in last week's during his game there, and looking to reprise it in this game, already starting off to a 3-0-1 in his team, starting up the Pyromancer and finishing it faster than enemies can get into the area. Both objectives now falling for that side, and a nice little gold and XP lead that they've accrued themselves.
And as we look at the builds here, we do see the Hunter Waddle on the side of Phoenix going into crit, whereas the Rama die on Daddy Daycare is most likely going into an Aussie, although we could potentially see a kin size, considering that they are pretty tanky on the side of Phoenix, especially with the damage mitigation that Tiamat gets with her passive.
Yeah, we could see either of those items coming out, opting into the double life steal or the health shred, as we do see a quick pause coming out here. But this gives us a chance to talk about the game state and maybe some more of the builds. We just talked about the hunter builds, and I'm scanning the map for anything else interesting. Standard builds from the support, maybe outside of that Spear of Desolation, but it's these solo lane builds that they look standard to me, but I'm wondering if maybe Talisman of Energy is what pops out to me is not maybe the best option. Bulwark of Hope recently getting a buff over there as that item, but I'm not sure if that was the best pickup for him.
I think the Bulwark of Hope is maybe more uh, favorable on a Cullen, especially with the transform. You get the shield. Why not add another shield to it with the Bulwark of Hope that has been recently buffed? And as I personally think it's not getting picked up enough. Um, but I'm not a solo leader, so
That's okay. Neither of us are solo leaders, but we can still harass them for their build choices. That's why we're here. We will see the Gilgamesh go into a little bit of defense as well, choosing to go into that Pridwin and double flat pen right into a full defensive item, especially a defensive item that takes advantage of the other protections you have. That seems a little off kilter to me.
I think that the Gilgamesh maybe should have elected for something like a Shifter Shield or a Void Shield here if you wanted to build more tanky instead of a Pridvin. I get the idea behind it. You jump into the backline, you ult, and then you get that shield from the passive of Pridvin. But I think that a Shifter Shield, Shifters is just really good right now on anyone, and I think that it would have helped him more than this Pridvin.
Shifter is definitely giving you the advantage on those engages, as we will finally get an unpause here. Looks like Crucifix had some connection issues there, as We get a chance once again to talk about now instead of the builds, I really want to look at the relics because something has popped out to me, and it's this Thorns out of the Cocolin. I know we were just talking about this Talisman of Energy coming from him, but Thorns is not a relic I've seen very often. I mean, when it does come out, it usually comes out of that solo lane, but ever since its nerf a while back, I feel like we haven't seen much play from this item.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting pickup here by the Cacolin. I don't know if I rather him have this. I think that, possibly picking up a beads against this comp, especially when you're behind, would have been more favorable. I know he gets the CC immunity from his ult, but we see a pluck onto the Guan Yu here.
A little bit of an engage here in mid, and damage will be traded onto both of these tanks, but now it's 4 members from both sides grounded or grouped, excuse me, around this mid lane. And this might be foreshadowing to what's to come next, and that's this Primal Fury. Cerberus starting this one up. 4 members near the red buff for the side of Fenyx, and they will not get here in time. Shredded that objective outside of Daddy Daycare, and they end up taking that one once again clean.
Yeah, we see the gold lead really start to get out of hand here. 7K gold lead for the side of Daddy Daycare. And with this Primal Fury, I expect them to now start setting up for the Fire Giant, getting all of their wards out and start grouping up, especially since they have pressure in all of the other places.
Now, one thing I will say as we move towards perhaps the most important objective in the game, neither team really coming out with a solid, secure mage here. We don't have the Scylla ult, we don't have the Thoth ult, or the Kukulkan ultimate, or the Poseidon ultimate. I could go on. We all know the mage ults that are going to secure this objective, and neither team has one. So, I mean, do you think Fenyx has a lot of steal potential here?
It's possible, I can definitely see a world where the Gilgamesh, now that he has Blink, blinks in and ults the Fire Giant and tries to do something magical, or the Tiamat comes in and hides behind one of the walls and uses her two to possibly get that last tick of damage off. But in the ways of secure and matter of fact stealing, the only ult that I possibly see doing anything is the Rama ult.
The Medusa ult also giving a lot of damage there if used properly. So definitely on those 2 Hunter ultimates if we're looking at a huge damage ability. But it's more on the zoning for me. We've seen some great zoning coming out towards the first Gold Fury, specifically from this Guan Yu keeping that Medusa away, and I fully expect to continue to see that zoning coming out of the side of Daddy Daycare, but looks like they might get started a little bit earlier than we thought. Tanking up the Fire Giant is Cerberus. 4 members over here to start, Medusa on her way. They definitely know what's going on, but hesitant to get involved quite yet. 2 members on the front line, Osiris and Guan Yu really want to get involved, but still on the Fire Giant are the carries of Daddy Daycare, and now they have started to engage, starting to try and clean it up, and they will secure it, but will they secure the fight? Cerberus getting low, popping the frenzy, 1 snipe, 3 snipes, all on to Waddle, securing that kill into the backline. Rama trying to get more damage off on, and will get the double kill onto Robin Flare. Discordia ult hitting the Sobek as well, putting him in a rough spot, and it looking the triple kill not to be. Jaragon stealing that one away from his ADC, but 3 kills and a Fire Giant for Daddy Daycare might secure them this Fenyx.
And that all started off the back of the zoning coming out from the Guan Yu and Osiris, making sure that Fenyx couldn't really get to the Fire Giant while the Cerberus tanked and the 2 carries just poured damage into it. And then we saw the Rama come out with the huge snipes and getting a double kill as they now push for this Fenyx.
Looking to shred this Fenyx, and they are doing a good job of it. Nobody willing to step up there. And they'll take the Fenyx, and they might just take the Fenyx, the team Fenyx, as they try and finish off this game. But not in the cards quite yet. They got to take care of some of these towers first, and I like this disciplined decision. That Titan still has quite a lot of tankiness to it with 2 of these towers, or 4 of these towers total, still standing on the map. They'll get that tier 1, tier 2 in mid, tier 1, tier 2 in the duo lane, and they'll still have a lot of time on this Fire Giant, and they'll likely back for some item spikes as well.
As we take a look at the relic choice for the Sobek, who has recently hit level 12, he also picked up a Thorns.
Yeah, that's that's a little bit interesting to me as well. I'm as surprised as you are, I think, to to see two Thorns come out of the side of Fenyx, but they're clearly a little bit concerned about this Rama and perhaps this Osiris as well. Two auto attack focused characters in those two characters, right? The jungle and the ADC coming out trying to do that auto attack damage. But truth be told, I'm not sure the double thorns is really the best look into battling against that. And the Sobek has the shell as well, which is also not a relic I value very highly.
I think that in this scenario, the shell is maybe more prevalent with the Osiris diving. You know, you can upgrade it, get the 50%, basic attack damage reduction while the shield is active when the Osiris is diving the backline. But I really don't understand the value behind the Thorns pickup. I think picking up a horrific, which would, slow the Osiris down, slow the Guan Yu down, reduce the attack speed, or even picking up a heavenly agility to help his carries escape faster would have been a better choice than the Thorns.
Well, we do see them reset here, looking for this Gold Fury. All towers down, now down on the map, as well as a Fenyx, but these two members may have stepped up a little bit far. Sobek put in a rough spot against a wall and might end up falling for it, forced into the lurking in the waters, and may get out, but running into the Osiris, sure, not something he wanted to do there, and he will fall as a result. And Daddy Daycare was looking for the Gold Fury, but may now look for the Fenyx instead. Both the jungle and the solo lane are looking for kills right here, getting that stun onto Kukulkan. He'll pop his thorns, but we'll see how much value it gets. Looks like a lot so far, trying to finish off this kill onto the Osiris, but that tornado will not reach quite yet. Looks like they'll be forced to back off and go for the Gold Fury.
One thing Fenyx has to be careful of here as the side of Daddy Daycare looks for these, smaller objectives, not really smaller, but the less important ones at this stage of the game, like the Gold Fury, is that they have a Fenyx down. They have fire minions pouring into the Titan room as they were trying to contest this Gold Fury. And they need to make sure that they're pushing this wave up and making sure that if they're going to make a play on the other side of the map, that they're aware of these minions at all time, or else their Titan is definitely going to get chunked down.
I will say, though, that is the best possible Fenyx to lose at this stage of the game. Being on the right side of the map for the side of Fenyx will potentially allow them to step up easier towards this next Fire Giant if they choose to contest. Do you expect to see that Fire Giant contest come out, or do you think they have a better Fenyx defense?
I think I wouldn't be surprised at this stage of the game to see a Fire Giant contest, seeing as almost everyone on the side of Fenyx has hit level 20. A few members. Oh, but the hit.
Waddle taken out early. Looked like he wasn't in the right spot, and neither is Robin. 2 kills falling early on, and it looks like a fight wasn't even started. It just started by accident. Members of Fenyx out of position cost them those early kills, and it'll cost them a third pick here. 3 falling down for Fenyx, and it might be 4 as Kukulkan in a little bit of a rough spot, forced out of the blink, but the frenzy popped as well, and this damage will fly fast, trying to fall before he gets back to the base. Won't be successful, but what might be successful is this attack on the Titan. Falling to under half HP, trying to defend our members of Fenyx, but they won't be able to get anything done, and it'll be Daddy Daycare taking game number 1. Daddy Daycare looking considerably better, I would say, than the side of Fenyx. I mean, it looked like they were dominant in all stages of that game across all 3 lanes. Perhaps the upside for me, or at least the positive light I can look at as the side of Fenyx, is that mid lane. We didn't see the mid lane fall behind, and we didn't see a ton of focus on it from the members of Fenyx to perhaps push that first pick Tiamat ahead. And I'm wondering if that's where you would like to see their focus going into game 2.
I definitely think that there's maybe a potential there for a level 2, gank if, the Gilgamesh had gone blink and blinked to mid and got a drop kicked off. That could have been literally game changing for the side of Fenyx. But also I maybe want to see them play off solo a bit more. The Kukulkan did have a small lead over the Guan Yu in the early levels of the game, so maybe an early gank onto the solo laner of Daddy Daycare.
Yeah, we did see a lot of focus towards that solo lane as we looked towards the early stages of the game, and Guan Yu certainly putting on a show for us in game number 1. But with a number of deaths and a lack of kills across the board for Fenyx, they may have to reevaluate their draft entirely as we move into game number 2, but we'll find out how that goes right after this break. And welcome back, Smite fans. Week 2, SDL, Daddy Daycare versus Fenyx, game number 2. We just saw Fenyx take a hard loss in game number 1, Daddy Daycare coming out on the dominant side of that one, and it looks like they've chosen to go for this first pick slot here in this game number 2. So that's the first thing I'll ask you about, Rogue. Is do you think this first pick slot is the favored side to be on, or do you think maybe side 2 has the advantage, or are they close? What are your thoughts?
With so many gods being so good these days, I think definitely picking second is the better choice because when you first pick, yes, you might get the best god available, but if you second pick, you get two of the best gods available. So I think that if I'm ever in a position to pick when I'm, going first or second, I always go second. But maybe, Phoenix has a plan in mind that will change my opinion.
I tend to agree. I think there are too many odds in the game that I'm scared of to favor first pick right now, but we do see a slight switch up in the bans. In fact, twofold switch up in the bans. We saw them ban Artemis last game, but this time they're going to go with the Osiris and the Guan Yu. That front line for the side of Daddy Daycare that did such a good job zoning last game, not going to be available to be picked here in game number 2. We do see the standard bans, I think, coming out from the side of Daddy Daycare. They might put the Persephone in this last slot as they did last game, but a lot coming out towards the front line from Daddy Daycare last game. Do you think that's a good targeted direction for Phoenix to be going in?
It's definitely one of the directions they should be going in. I think the front line was a huge problem for Phoenix last game. The incredible zoning coming out from Dom and Bearded on that Osiris and Guan Yu respectively made it so basically none of the players of Phoenix could get to that ROM in the backline who was just pouring out damage. I think he ended with 20k player damage last game, which is just insane. I mean, we saw in several team fights where he was just able to free cast in the backline. So taking away the frontliners is not necessarily the worst case, but maybe, banning some hunters out, making sure that Dai, who has had, really strong performances so far, the three games he's played this season, maybe put him on
Wisdom shall
something
be
that he's
my shield.
uncomfortable on.
Well, that Rama was available for that first pick slot, but we'll see the Athena first pick instead, and no hesitation when it comes to hovering this Ardio, one of the
Winning
gods
or
that was
losing
banned
doesn't
out
matter.
last
We all
game
shall
and will
return to
be
nature in
picked
the
up
end.
this game. We'll get to talking about the Athena in just a second, but two Guardians locked in pretty quickly for Daddy Daycare, and I can't find fault in this decision.
Yeah, I mean, we see the two Guardians coming out being Ardio and Cerberus. Both of them are incredible solo laners right now, but they also both work in the support role. This is going to make the side of Phoenix drafts a little bit harder, not knowing where
You'll
these
never.
gods are going to go. As we see an Erlang Shen and a Rama being locked in, the Rama, obviously being locked in to take it away from Dai, I would assume, and the Erlang Shen is going to probably be in the jungle.
Yeah, different switch up here on the side of Phoenix, putting that Rama over there, so a little bit more pressure perhaps in the dual lane, as well as taking it away from Die Horrific, and we will see, or excuse me, Die Violently. I was close there. I knew it was an adjective, a bad adjective, but we will see a different side of this support and jungle. Maybe solo. Maybe we see the Zerlong Shin go solo, but I agree with you. I think it's going towards this jungle role. And I think it might be a similar pick to this Gilgamesh when you consider the auto attack focus, the warrior class line, and some innate tankiness coming there. I mean, do you think those two gods are comparable in their roles, or do you think we'll see Robin playing a little bit of a different role, maybe a setup man in some of these team fights this time?
I think it's going to depend on their mid lane pick. We see the Scylla band out, but there's definitely some other mages with the big bursty ultimates that you could see the side of Phoenix pick up to possibly, play off this Erlang Shen taunt. Poseidon comes to mind with the Kraken, but I love
Who
this
will
Fenrir
rise
pickup
above the rest?
because beads are going to be burned so quickly from the sides of Daddy Daycare that Fenrir is going to have so many people to go after.
Fenrir coming out for the side of Daddy Daycare, and we blew right through those bans as well. Persephone and Tiamat getting taken away from the side of Daddy Daycare, and Raijin and Anher, yet again another hunter pushed away from the enemy team. Discordia coming out as their mid laner, and that was the one they had last time, had some success, but yet another set of switch ups on the side of Fenyx to Kulkin and Jing Chen. So lacking that secure ultimate. They've got that now in Kukulkan, and Jing Chen, yet another large CC heavy character, perhaps going into that solo lane now.
I don't not so Kukulkan pick. You know, when I look back on game one, biggest thing I remember is the zoning and the dive from Daddy Daycare and Kukulkan. While the god does have a movement ability, I guess you could say, with increasing the movement speed, he doesn't have a leap or a dash that's going to help him get away from this Ardio or this Cerberus or this Fenrir. So it'll be interesting how it plays out. And Jing Shen most likely going to be the solo laner, although we could see something interesting in, the Jing Shen going support, possibly Athena jungle, Erlang Shen solo. Who knows?
It could be some spiciness over here from the side of Fenyx, but I will say the Jing Chen does pair well with the Athena. Both of those gods having that heavy CC ability, both good setup for the Kukulkan, and if one bird's beads for the other, I feel like there's definitely some room to get a good team fight going there. But we will see this last hunter pick outside of Daddy Daycare. I was really interested to see where this direction would go. Three hunters banned out up in the top layer there. It was Rama last game taken away once again. So he has his pick of the litter and chooses to go for Danza Burrow.
Yeah, Danza at the start of the season was very prevalent. I mean, first pick, first ban sort of situation, received some nerfs, and that's along with, items being changed around, the meta's favoring the bow build, Danza not having a stim in his kit. He's sort of fallen in the ADC rankings, but I can definitely still see the value of this, he wanted to match the taunts coming out of the side of Fenyx.
That's it. That has to be it. What an analysis breakdown from Rogue. Taunts on both sides now. Pretty much even. I would say Danzaburo taunt is as good as Athena taunt, if not better at this point. So definitely some room coming out there, some CC coming out from the Hunter on the side of Daddy Daycare. But now that we have a chance to look at these drafts, 5 players for both teams, and we've seen instead of a guardian and a warrior, we've got 2 guardians on both sides, going back towards that guardian solo lane meta, and 2 CC heavy drafts. I would say RDO bringing a ton of lockdown and Herket, Cerberus, and Fenrir, heavy CC ultimates. Same with Athena and Jing Chen. But Athena has that global pressure, whereas not being matched on the side of Daddy Take Care. I mean, whose draft are you favoring here?
Honestly, I think that it's going to come down to which team communicates better. Both teams have this CC chain, these beads burning comps, but it's all going to be about execution. If Daddy Daycare, it gets their communications rolling. If they combo the Surball into the Fenrir ult, it's going to be game over. But on the other side, the Kukulkan is going to bring way more value, being a big ranged ultimate. They're not going to have to stand next to the Fenrir to do damage while he's holding someone in his mouth. The Athena can blink taunt someone while the Kukulkan ults. So it's going to come down to execution for me.
Both execution heavy drafts on either side here. We are ready almost to get into game. I'm as excited as you are to see how game 2 plays out here, but we'll be right back with the game after this short break. And welcome back, Smite fans. Thank you for waiting. That short break is brought to you by these builds that we're about to talk about, as these drafts change up a little bit fundamentally, especially on the side of Fenyx. And we got a chance to talk about during the draft, the pick and ban phase. But now we get a chance to see what these people are starting, what these players are starting, as well as what roles they're going into. No surprises so far. On the side of that, I think we see the expected Erlong in the solo lane and Robin Flair getting a good start there, hopefully better than he had last game. And Crucifix choosing to go into that solo lane with the Jing Chen. but an early engagement here in the mid lane will prevent us from talking about that as Kukulkan gets a little bit low. You were talking about that lack of escape, but we do see a quick kill engage, and I thought we wouldn't see anything, but instead we see two, Bearded and Robin, both falling, flip-flopping for first blood, going towards Daddy Daycare, though.
Great turn by the Fenrir going onto the Erlang Shen who is in pursuit. A little bit of a miscalculation coming out as we see a double Athena taunt.
Onto the dual lane here. Some poke being exchanged between the supports, and we might see something turn around. Rama gets taunted back in. Actually, more damage than he was expecting. Great body blocks coming out from Athena, though. Going to save his life right there, but might put Athena in more danger than she was expecting. And another kill for Daddy Daycare.
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful Cerberus stun coming out, making sure that Danza can get his damage out. As the solo kill is about to come out, it's the Xing Shen that comes out on top, taking down the Artio.
Crucifix putting his dominance in this solo lane. You saw him not get off to a great start in that solo lane last time. Got ganked a couple of times early and didn't have the best time, but does not need a gank to take care of that one. Already, we're playing arena at this point. 2 minutes in, double the kills at this point in the game, and small 500 gold lead coming out from Daddy Daycare as they managed to grab that first blood, but we'll move back to what we were going to initially talk about, and that is the obvious build on my screen. I hope that you can see it too. That's the Athena build. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's definitely maybe a throwback, we'll say, to some previous patches ago of going benevolence, but also no gauntlet. Going into probably what is going to be, I would hope, maybe a breastplate for early cooldown.
Could be a breastplate. Athena, one of those support characters known for liking that cooldown, although it's typically Pridwin, I think, that we see from Athena as opposed to the breastplate. Could also see something like the Contagion for some early anti-heal, although that's really only from the Artio, so not going to be involved in fights quite yet, but might see the Spectral come out, and we did see Die Violently not go towards that crit in the last game, but maybe worried he's going to go towards that crit in this game, as we did talk about Dancerbro not having the greatest build option towards that bow build that Rama went last game.
Oh, so the Athena gets slowed and taken out by Die. Another kill going the way of the ADC.
Yet another kill towards Dancerbro, and we may see him. I mean, that tier 2 physical defense not doing a ton for Athena so far, but taunt misses. It comes out, it does hit. Excuse me, the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel was the ultimate that was off the mark, but still the kill secured from the side of Crucifix. There might be another kill over in the dual lane. Those two autos not on the mark there for Die Violently, but a ton of damage coming out onto Waddle, and still having the advantage over in this dual lane is Die Violently, as he had the advantage last game as well. But what shifted is this solo lane advantage. It's very clearly now in the favor of Crucifix after that solo kill and now the gank onto this Artio. I mean, they banned that pick out in game one. It seems like they're really focused on shutting that down.
Yeah, definitely this is what you want to see from Fenyx, get a lead somewhere. You sort of lost every lane in game one, so the focus on game two should be get a lead somewhere and play off that lead. And, two kills already onto this RDO, setting her behind against the Xing Shen is a great place to start.
I will say this Jing Chen seems to me like an odd place to push that lead. He's not particularly known for his ability to do things with a lead, as opposed to a character like Osiris or like Mulan, who do things with a lead, but also do things like doesn't do much without a lead. Needs a lead to be effective, but we might see this lead more prevalent over here in the duel lane. That's the third kill coming out of Die Violently, and that one he didn't need any help with. He got help on his first two, but that gave him the ability to get that solo kill for kill number 3.
And Phoenix needs to make a really important decision here, right? They need to decide whether they're going to all in this Danza right now to shut him down before he gets too out of hand, or if they just say the lane is lost as we see the Fenrir route come out and force the Kukulkan beats.
Does force the Kukulkan beads and force the Serpent of the Nine Winds, as well as the Defender of Olympus. 3 ults expended here in this mid lane, and we see Athena dash in, but not enough to get the kill. It might be enough here as that Discordia ult comes out and Crucifix rotates early on, similar to how he did in game number 1. He'll come over and help out with a 1-for-1 so far, but 2 low members still on the side of Daddy Daycare. Kukulkan looking for the follow-up, almost finishing off that Discordia, and Robin Flair will come out and finish that kill, and a good tornado placement will get the third. Big turnaround from Fenyx cleaning up that engagement.
Yeah, the whole fight started out with the Fenrir jumping in and ulting the Kukulkan, burning the beads, and then Crucifix basically just played cleanup. He came in, did some damage, and then everybody ended up dying. And that's off of the lead that they were able to build early in the solo lane that we were talking about earlier. And it's just going to put the Xingqian in a much better place than he was last game.
I will say that despite that rotation, now 3-0-2 for Crucifix, an impressive scoreline, a level down now in the solo lane, thanks to that Artio getting 2 or 3 waves to herself during that rotation from Crucifix. And he actually might be in a rough spot here if he doesn't realize Bearded is in the place that he is. Playing a little bit passive towards this lane will likely save his life. He does have a ward over there on the left side of the map, so good for him to be cautious there, does not lose his life, but it might be Kukulkan in a little bit of a rough spot here. Remember, they burned his beads earlier, but it might be Cerberus getting engaged on instead. Spirit of the Nine Winds available, not coming out though, so just some poke exchange in the mid lane for now.
Tanks at this point are getting pretty beefy. We did see the breastplate come out of the Athena, as we see the Fenrir ulting the Xingqian, who gets the double taunt and the double ultimate off.
Whirlwind Rage and Steel expended, gets 2 members and puts them in a rough spot, but it's actually a kill in the mid lane that will be the first of this engagement. Falling early is that, but it will be Die violently rotating in and getting yet another kill in the mid lane, as we're still waiting to see if one is going to come out on the solo side of the map. Instead, it'll be 1-for-1 towards the mid lane. Some action over in the solo lane, but all just flare as we see the supports fall for both teams.
That's definitely not where I thought the kills were going to be coming from, especially when you see a double taunt into a double Xingqian ult. But over on the duo side, this Danza is level 10. He is 4-0. He is half an item up. I mean, this lane is completely lost now.
Yeah, definitely having an impact everywhere on the map at this point, as we just saw Die violently rotate into the mid lane to clean up Sadist as well. So having an impact on the rest of the map early, and I expect him to be possibly the MVP once we come out towards this early Gold Fury fight. Now, it was last game that we saw Daddy Daycare get 2 extremely clean Gold Furies. Nobody was able to engage. The zoning was on point both times, but I'm not sure they'll be able to do that this time, but it looks like yet another fight happening over in the duel lane. Die violently low on mana, but ahead in levels, doing way more damage per basic attack, and it seems like he wants to continue going in, but not enough mana, and certainly not enough mana for Fenrir to continue as well, not enough health as well. We see members back off, but I'm still of the opinion that we'll see the eventual fight towards this Gold Fury, but it might be in mid beforehand. The other jungler forced to back off, and we're waiting on a taunt there, but it didn't come through. Instead, 2 members coming out, pulled under tower, but a better wind of the serpents coming out from Kukulkan, and it might be 2 falling. Robin Flair getting that second kill. Cerberus, the only one left alive, trying to find the finishing kill. Was he on the Athena, but now being forced into a spot. And Rama in the air. 1 snipe misses, 2 snipes hit, but it won't matter as he does end up falling, or at least I think he will. Looking for the pin to come out, and it won't be needed as that Zephyr from Kukulkan will clean it up. And now 4 members near this Gold Fury should be cleaned up from Fenyx.
What a great response from Fenyx off of that double Cerberus ult. It looked like the engagement was going to go the way of Daddy Daycare, but a huge Serpent of the Nine Winds coming out to take out the mid laner for Daddy Daycare means that the Kukulkan was just able to output more damage than the side of Daddy Daycare, as Dai gets a double kill off the back of this Gold Fury.
And he's going to look for the third, just pushing towards this Fenyx. They're pushing towards his purple buff. Not ready is Waddle. I'm not sure he expected him to chase this far, and Die violently starting off 7-0. What an explosive start from him. It was the Gold Fury for the side of Fenyx, but that 3 kills from Die Violently may have just evened up that trade on the map, and he'll secure a tier 1 tower for his efforts as well. Just a huge oversight from the side of Fenyx, not respecting his damage.
So I'm gonna need the side of Fenyx when they see Danza to just run away. Doesn't matter if you're a tank, doesn't matter if you're in the solo lane and you're getting ganked by a Danza, you run away because this man is fed and he is popping off.
Yeah, I heard that through the grapevine that this man got 18 kills during a match in week number 1. So we'll see if he can reprise that form here in game number 2 of this set. But a quick gank here we see in the solo lane. It's Denim getting focused once again, already ganked earlier on in the lane. We'll see if we can put him to death here early on, or at least later on in this game. But the dash gets forced out and they aren't able to take him down. You see why that is. That Athena ult actually coming up to interrupt myself, and we see 4 members now over here on the solo side of the map. That Cerberus ult gets forced, pushed into the tower, but it will be the Serpent of the
What
Night
a huge
both tanks, leaving them down very low, and Damen will be cleaned up here as well. Robin Flair likely to clean up this one for the final kill, but it'll be the Zephyr coming out to finish off the double kill for Commodity, and he deserves it with that ultimate, but we might not be done yet. Fenrir trying to come out with the Ragnarok, unable to hit it onto his target, but Robin Flair will fall regardless. Die Violently going onto the Commodity here, and he's been left alone in the backline. Support not there to peel out for him, but he won't take enough damage. He'll survive for the time being, but now it's both tanks up too far forward, and Die Violently isn't stopping off the W key. He's continuing to push forward. That ability coming out, Bearded stepping under the tower. A little bit low, maybe made a mistake there, thought Die Violently was with him, but it'll instead be 2 for 1 across the board in favor of Fenyx.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of an overstep by the Fenrir at the end, but you can see Danza picking up another kill. And if we go back to that fight, it started off with the Cerber Assault taking 3 people up into the air. 2 of them ended up beadsing, but you saw the Kukulkan come out in response and hitting both of the players from the sides of Daddy Daycare and doing so much damage. And one of the question marks for me was this Kukulkan, and I think with the way these ults have been going, I'm definitely now a fan.
Yeah, I mean, if he continues to have this kind of impact in these fights, I definitely can't fault him for going this pick, but we see Die Violently everywhere on the map at this point in the game, and it might be Waddle in a little bit of trouble towards his purple buff, able to secure that and forces the Defender of Olympus towards this side of the map as well. But now Robin Flair up against 4 members, deleted on this side of the map, and that Serpent of the Nine Winds not on the mark, but Commodity might be next on the list. Die Violently looking to clean him up, hits 2 basics, and that almost was enough to do it. The damage that this man is putting out is just off the charts right now, but it might be Crucifixing to save the fight. Not enough to save his support, though. He'll get away scot-free, and members will take some damage, but a huge win in that fight off the back of Die Violently.
If we look at how that fight started, right, with the players of Daddy Daycare sort of coming in towards the mid lane, I think they have 1 ward out on the map, and that's over by their red buff. So they really had no vision of the enemy team coming in to invade and possibly look for something more off this, as we see the T1 go down in right on the side of Daddy Daycare, just adding to their gold lead. But one of the things you have to do if you're behind is make sure that you're warding up, as we see engagement around the Pyromancer.
Around the Pyromancer, 2v3 here for the time being, but Kukulkan on the way. Ragnarok has been popped as well. Crucifix able to get away from that one, so a little bit of a wasted ult from Fenrir, but now it's a clean 5v4, and Fenyx with a huge advantage until Die Violently gets here. We'll see if they can take advantage. Good taunt coming out to Dom, half health down to now. Able to avoid the whirlwind, but won't avoid his death as 1 member being taken out already. Now Die Violently, watch him in the mid lane. Thought he was going to come underneath, but choosing to maybe give this one up instead, as all members of Daddy Daycare look to back.
That was just the case of Fenyx had 5 players there, while Daddy Daycare only had 4, and Fenyx was able to get a pick, and so the safe call from Daddy Daycare comes out, which is let them have the Pyromancer. We don't want to let Die fall, because that bounty is going to be huge. He is level 17 at 15.5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely shredding right now as Die Violently. I mean, I would even say, like, if that was a 4v5 and you did have your ADC right there, I'm still not taking it. I'm still running away from this Danza Burrow, but We do see a quick pause here, and we get a chance to talk about the details. And I love to talk about the details. We get to talk about the builds, and the first thing that I see in these builds is that this Fenrir choosing to go into the Mannequin Scepter, which is a little bit. I think I align with the rest of the build. The brawlers, I think I can get behind Flat Pen. The Pridwin, a nuts item on Fenrir, just fantastic for him. But the Mannequin Scepter not going the Eye of the Jungle for me to get those extra protections is a little bit odd.
I don't hate it. Mannequins being such a good item right now, I think it can work on most junglers. But definitely, when you think of a Fenrir, you think of someone who picks up Eye of the Jungle and looks maybe towards the Protector of the Jungle for the upgrade for that tankiness and that extra power you get, so you can really just run through the backline. And on the side of Phoenix, a lot of anti-heal coming out already. We see Tainted Steel on the Jing Shen, Toxic Blade coming out on the Erlang Shen, and a Pestilence on the side of the Athena. They want to make sure that this Ardio cannot heal. They want to make sure that they can kill this Ardio, because if you don't kill an Ardio, she is going to just destroy your backline.
No, and another interesting point is on that build with the Pestilence, the Athena not choosing to go a Thebes at all. I thought she might pick that up a little bit later in the build, but choosing to go into Silver Breastplate yet again, although I expect this to be an answer from the Wind Demon coming out on the side of Danzaburo, choosing to go into that critical strike and likely into the dominance after that.
Yeah, these autos coming out of the Danzabur are going to be chunking. You have the percent pen, you have the crit, you have the attack speed, and then if he doesn't kill you with the autos, he's just going to fly a spaceship to you and kill you with that. I mean, he is the nightmare right now for Phoenix.
Absolutely having an effect here in this game. And we'll get a chance to speculate on playstyle as well. Now that we see this Gold Fury respawning, still Dom him down for 9 or so seconds. And so we can take a look at the immediate game state. And that is 4 members, it seems, on the side of Phoenix, or at least 3 right now that we can see on our screen, heading towards that Gold Fury. Athena able to join with that global ultimate, and they do have the secure ultimate over the side of Daddy Daycare not having as good a secure with Discordia. I mean, I think they have a real shot at a Gold Fury play right here.
So do I. I mean, the only thing that, possibly would be a concern is maybe the Cerberus jumping in, burning all of the beads, and then a Fenrir gets into your backline, and he gets, uh, he ults the Kukulkan and brings him away from the rest of the team, and then the Danza hit him with 2 autos and kills him, and there goes your secure.
Yeah, he is going to have to be. I think we've seen him be pretty solid on the Serpent of the Nine Winds, so I'm not too particularly concerned about how that might go for him with his timing in the last couple of team fights. But we can also talk about how the last team fight went. Towards that, we did see that Pyromancer secure, and that was all positioning. But towards that bottom half of the map, when Die Violently was able to push his agenda, didn't step off that W key over there, able to really put his damage into the enemy team, and the Serpent of the Nine Winds could not find a location towards the enemy jungle.
I think that might have been the first ultimate of the Kukulkan that didn't hit anyone this game. So it was one of those, there was no setup. It was more of a, hey, I'm going to ult over the wall and hope I can try and peel for my team. As we see, Daddy Take Care is actually the ones that are pulling this Gold Fury, and it's actually all the way down to half, and it's going to be burned before anybody of Phoenix can really get there.
I thought they had the Gold Fury play, but Daddy Daycare turn it on its head, and they want more kills after the fact. Kukulkan doing a good job of self-peeling, keeping the tanks out of his range, but they're not done being in their jungle. This was their last successful fight location. They're looking to reinvent the wheel here as they pick up with the Ragnarok Sag. There's Sidis in a bad spot, but Whirlwind of Rage and Steel coming on the back end, and a fantastic Serpent of the Nine Winds brings down 2 members low. Erlang Shen looking to clean it up in the back line, gets 1. The Snipes might pick up the 2nd, looking for that Cerberus kill as well. Discordia ultimate coming out, doing a little bit of damage, but Cerberus in a rough spot, expected to fall early on here. Taunt not on the target for Athena, but it's only Cerberus going to fall for the 2nd kill here if they can finally picking up this kill. It's looking like they're taking a little bit too long, but Jaragon will fall at the end there, and it looked like a good engage for Bearded using that Ragnarok, but That Serpent of the Nine Winds once again just messes with their whole plan.
The Athena not having beads is definitely what the Fenrir was looking at. You know, he picks up the Athena, takes him to the rest of the team. Athena dies, and then they can start looking towards taking buffs or anything they want. But the focus has to be on the side of Daddy Daycare, the Kukulkan. We saw in that fight the Kukulkan ult come out and hit 2 or 3 players, as now the side of Phoenix is starting with the Fire Giant.
Yeah, and Kukulkan does not have ultimate to potentially secure this, as we do see 2 members, including Die Violently, up to contest this one. And Fenyx does secure it, but will they secure the fight? Die Violently, forced into a rough spot, gets into that leaf form, but and now turning around, Crucifix falling fast, and Domim will fall as well. Soul Laner for Soul Laner to start this fight, but it's Fire Giant on the side of Fenyx. We'll see if it continues. Great, Discordia all threading the needle, but not enough to kill. Might be Cerberus still looking to finish this one off. We'll see if his teammates can save him, and they will save the side of their support. 2 members falling, both tanks on the side of Daddy Daycare, and a huge win for Fenyx.
A little bit of miscommunication there on the end of that team fight. You saw the Cerberus jumping in, getting the ult off, expecting the rest of his team to be there, but they weren't there. And so, it's still early in the season, so some of those things happen. But not having Spirit of the Nine Winds is definitely something I take into account when we start sieging Fire Giants. But Phoenix did it anyways, and they still managed to get it.
Yeah, and that confidence does not look bad on them. I really like to see that from them. Rivaling objectives definitely comes out positive for them as they chose to do it there. And I think they just felt confident in, okay, both teams have lack of secure, and we still have Zephyr in the Kukulkan first ability, which is not a bad secure by any means. And so still able to get a lot out of that and able to pick up the Fire Giant. And only tier 2 towers remain on that side of the map for Daddy Daycare, so I suspect that's where they're going to look towards in this next siege.
And one of the reasons why that uh, Phoenix was able to pick up the Fire Giant was that the the spectral coming out of the Athena, making sure that the Donza couldn't do any damage. As we see engagement onto the Athena, they're actually going to pick him up wandering alone.
Yeah, I was not under the impression. I didn't think they were going to be able to kill that Athena, but I mean, she still had ultimate. She still had the ability to join one of her team members as she was escaping there, but chose not to and loses the Fire Giant off of her as a result. But the plus side of that is in 15 seconds, regardless of where her team is on the map, she'll be able to join them. So not a huge loss at the moment, as we do still see 4 members of Phoenix grouped up here in the mid lane. Looks like they're maybe a little bit, excuse me, a little bit hesitant towards where they want to focus just yet.
And I think that the focus definitely needs to be over on the left side of the map, especially with this Oni Fury coming up soon. Phoenix has the Fire Giant. They need to be pushing for that duo side tier 2 and then falling back to the Oni. And those Oni waves are going to let them, split which T2 they want to go to after that. They can have Onis pushing in mid while they go for the right or vice versa.
Looks like we might get an engagement right here. The enemy team saw Die Hardman back, and it will be a fantastic Spirit of the Nine Winds coming in, but misses the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, preventing those members from being hit, but both of them looking to fall. Anyways, Kashakat under the ground first, but it will be Jaragon once again in a rough spot. This will be his 3rd fight death in a row. Count that as one of them. The leaf form forced into from Die Violently, and it will be Commodity chasing a little bit, but I'm not sure if he knows who he's up against. Die Violently still levels ahead of all of these members and wants to get it going, wants to take this fight, but it's Crucifix behind him. I'm not sure he realizes Ragnarok forces him into a bad spot. That the beads gets forced out, but he might be able to escape on a sliver of HP there, but the Danzaburo rocket coming out, and it's Commodity getting trained on right there. Die Violently with the double kill, looking for the triple kill. And it looks like Robin will get that sneaky back off, and I'm not sure Sadist will be able to get out, but Die Violently turning that one on its head.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the Donza, the impact that this 12-0 Donza had. He ulted in, and then he hit, what, 3 autos and killed the Kukulkan, the most valuable player for Phoenix? I mean, what do you do? How do you stop this man?
Yeah, he is certainly having the impact there. What surprised me the most was he got the kill onto Crucifix with the AoE of that Danzaburo rocket, cleaning that one up, and then, as you said, 3 auto attacks or 4 auto attacks to kill commodity there, and I'm just surprised he was able to hit 2 out of 3 crits with only 15% critical strike chance on that Wind Demon. So hopefully we'll see him go into something with a little bit more critical strike chance here in this last item. That's my hope at least, but certainly not preventing him from doing the damage at the moment. And we get a chance to take a step back and look at these graphs right here. The XP difference still majorly in favor of the side of Fenyx as they have a level lead seemingly everywhere except the dual lane. Is it looks like Die Violently has hit 20 already, but the gold lead's pretty even, and I would say that doesn't really have an impact at this point in the game. Anyways, both players or both teams at pretty even in their builds across the board here, but it looks like Fenyx in position to get this Fire Giant going. And Serpent of the Nine Winds is available this time around. Domim is pretty to it, and that means Daddy Daycare is as well. Down to half HP, looking for the secure here, and it looks like he'll try and jump in. Cerberus will to try and get that in. Serpent of the Nine Winds comes out early, but they manage to secure it anyways. Ragnarok out, but not able to find a target just yet, and it will be them still on the chase. Sadis forced into the ultimate, but he'll get out scot-free unless that does too much damage. Sadis being taken out in this fight, and it might be Die Violently, or excuse me, Crucifix falling early on as well. 2 players down, and they will continue to push. They didn't get the Fire Giant, but they certainly got the fight, and Robin Flair putting himself in a rough spot as well. Double kill for Die Violently, 14-0-3. He's been looking for the 15th as well. Only the 2 carries remaining for Fenyx.
So, Die Violently. I think there's going to be SPL teams interested in him. 14-0. Are you kidding me? When's the last time you saw someone go 14-0
in a competitive match? I'm not sure I've ever seen someone go 14-0 regardless of the level, but they certainly seem to be struggling to put him down at the moment, and we might need to get a check on Ty right here, for he is putting on a show in this match right now. As we said, 14-0-3, and not going for that crit item in the final slot, but it looks like he might not even need it, as we do see still the 2 members of Fenyx with the Fire Giant, and I think there are still positives here. Die Violently seems to be able to take over a fight at the drop of a hat. He can just control it if you let him do his thing. But that seems to me like Fenyx only have one problem to solve. They have one thing on their to-do list, and if they accomplish that thing, it feels like they might just win the game.
Yeah, definitely. What Fenyx needs to do right now is need to grab a piece of tape it over their W key, and go all in on this Danza Burrow, because if they do that, we've seen, the Kukulkan ults come out on the rest of the team, with the Xing Shen ults, the execution is there. We talked about it in the pregame. The execution is there. So if they just handle this Danza, I think Fenyx can take this game.
And we've seen them win a number of fights when the Danza was not privy to them, right? He wasn't in the location, but now it looks like they're feeling confident. They are not the ones with the Fire Giant, but they're the ones pushing down this left side. 5 members here from Daddy Daycare, and only 4 members here from the side of Fenyx. Looks like they're not too eager to defend this tier 2, despite them having the technical advantage as far as XP and everything goes. And instead, they choose to give that up, and it looks like Daddy Daycare just feel like they're in the driver's seat, and so they're gonna be in the driver's seat regardless of the technicalities. Looks like Ragnarok forced out as well, and Erline got his beads forced earlier, so not on the cards for him to go, but a Serpent of the Nine Winds takes down 2 members to very low HP, and that'll force them off the Erlang. Robin still able to survive there. His beads has now come back up, and Serpent of the Nine Winds just keep hitting here, and it looks like Gyragon will keep falling down. That's his 8th death of the game as he continues to fall in these fights, and now it's the chase is on. Fenyx continuing to push down this mid lane. Crucifix on the front line, and he does have his ultimate available. No, he doesn't. Excuse me, just used it in the last team fight, so it's just Robin with this taunt and Athena with the ultimate if she wants to come back in, but it'll be this tier 2 push from Fenyx instead.
I don't know if you caught this, but Kukulkan blinked.
Really?
He blinked.
Okay.
Man has blink. He is so confident right now. You got to blink against a Fed Donza who you know is going to be coming for you with his rocket because you are the one on your team pouring out the damage with these huge ultimates.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, Kukulkan has the least deaths on his team, tied with the carry. He has done a good job of positioning correctly, staying in the safe areas of those fights, and putting out his ultimates from range. He's done a good job of positioning. So maybe this blink is the right pickup. He's certainly been doing a good job so far. We'll see if he keeps that up on this Primal Fury. They're trying to pull it, but 5 members here from Daddy Daycare will push them off, and I think that's the right call for them to back up and not steal this one. But that Serpent of the Nine Winds gets forced out and doesn't get a lot of value this time, and Commodity may fall early, immediately taken down as the Athena ult gets out of dodge. The Danza Rocket gets forced out as well, but members will be safe. The Fenyx might not be. 4 members here for the side of Fenyx, and Daddy Daycare trying to push this one down despite not having Fire Giant, but they'll think better of it, try and maybe head towards that objective instead.
That was probably the worst case scenario for the side of Phoenix, having their mid laner get picked. No beads available to get out of that Fenrir ult. They tried to pull the Gold Fury, but they only had 3 players there, while the side of Daddy Daycare had 5. And you saw the Athena immediately turn to ult away, and I think that was probably a good choice because you can try and stick around and save the Kukulkan, but there's 5 members of the enemy team and you're an Athena. So I think ulting away was probably the right choice, as Daycare is starting the Fire Giant and it's getting really low.
Ram is in the air, trying to get those snipes out, but a little bit too early to contest this Fire Giant. But that doesn't mean they're not in, but they don't manage to take it away. Daddy Daycare secure that one as Crucifix tries to secure a kill in the backline, but Kashyyyk gets out scot-free. Robin now in the backline, being that one to cause trouble, but he's caught between 3 members of the enemy team and taken down just like that. I'm not sure it was the right idea to defend that Fire Giant.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting call. You know, Dai has picked up another kill, maybe even 2. He's getting power potions, the 500 pots. He's probably looking at 3K pots. I mean, he has so much gold right now. He has 34,000 player damage. I mean, how do you stop this?
He is certainly having the impact here as he is 10,000, more than 10,000 damage above the next closest player in this game. Kukulkan doing a lot for his team, certainly, and he certainly should be commended for that, but it really has to be shutting down one of these players on either team, and so far Die Violently has gotten the upper hand. It's finally a Fire Giant in favor of Daddy Daycare as they look to push down this left lane.
And I think with the big AoE controls, we see the Culkin blink over the wall, but the big AoE Cerberus ults and the Disco ult, and even the Don's ult, these Phoenix Sieges should go in the way of Daddy Daycare.
Looks like they're engaging right now. Athena behind, gonna push 2 members off of it, but it's Cerberus taking a lot of damage in the backline as well. Robin trying to get that blink in. Will clean up that kill. Serpent of the Nine Winds hitting 1 member, but not enough to clean it up. Support for support right now in the team fight, and Fenyx is almost down as well, but Bearded doing a lot to stun those members out, and Waddle in a little bit of trouble as well. Now a 4v4 as to 2 teams try and back up, wait for this next wave to come in, but the members of the blue team are lower, and Fenrir looking for this side engagement. Use that jump, still has to brutalize to try and get on top of an enemy member, but they don't have the wave anymore. Kukulkan doing a fantastic job of clearing out those minions and preventing them from doing the damage to this tower, but they won't be able to do it for that long until Crucifix blinks in, and Waddle with those crits just absolutely demolishes both the carries on the side of Daddy Daycare, and Fenyx. Waddle picks up a triple kill, looking for the Quadra onto Bearded. Tries to get this final kill, knows he's in a rough spot, and it will be Robin taking out that final kill instead, but a huge turnaround from Waddle.
They didn't even get the Phoenix out of all of that. The Xingqian blinks in, and the crits coming off around. We see this. We see how he has built more of those crit items, so he can just shred everyone, which totally turns that fight. I mean, I don't know what to say besides run it down mid and try to end the game.
Yeah, they have some long death timers on the side of Daddy Daycare, but Cerberus is still up and potentially ready to defend. That ultimate will be up in just a short period of time, as Athena now coming in with the Defender of Olympus. This Fenyx falling fast, and Jaragon forced into the ultimate now, but not sure who his target is, but certainly not ready to push down, as Sadist wants to go for the end, but isn't with the rest of her team, as people back up instead. as now they get the middle Phoenix and no Phoenix falls from Daddy Daycare, and it looks like we're gonna regroup on the next Fire Giant in a couple of minutes.
I think not trying to end is definitely the safer call, even though you still had, a few seconds to try and get a pick in on Daddy Daycare to offset how, the death timers and everything. But with this Oni Fury coming up right before the Fire Giant, I expect the next fight to take place around there to really make sure that, Phoenix secures the win. They get the Oni Fury, they head to Fire Giant. It is EFG. They can knock down the T2 if they want, or they can just go straight for the end. I mean, they have that huge ultimate coming out of commodity with the Kukulkan. So don't be surprised if the next fight is on that left side of the map.
Yeah, I think one Oni Fury could absolutely change the tides here if unchecked, and it looks like Phoenix won't put a ton of pressure over here and just let that one be taken. I guess they think that it's more suitable for them to deal with those waves before the Fire Giant comes up, but the timing may not work out in their favor because an unchecked Oni wave will absolutely take that left Phoenix down.
Absolutely. And as we get to the, later stages of the game, some of the upgrades haven't quite come out yet for the starter items. You see the Disco not being able to upgrade her starter yet. Athena hasn't upgraded the Benevolence. It'll be interesting to see whether or not the Athena goes for the Compassion or whether maybe to sell it for, more protections. I don't know. I haven't seen Benevolence picked up since the nerf, so it'll be interesting to see what the Athena decides to do.
And it's interesting as we see the rest of these builds shape out as well. That breastplate of anti-heal coming out from the Jing Chen, making sure that he gets that one online, and almost a full damage build coming out of Robin Flair on the Erlong Shin. And we haven't gotten a chance to talk about him too much, but a ton of damage, specifically auto attack damage, coming out on his end, and he's definitely ready to get involved in the back end of these fights when he gets the chance. And we've seen him gotten the chance a number of times, but looks like Crucifix starting up this Fire Giant. Rama looking to shred it a little bit with the crits, and it's falling down low already, half HP, but they do step off it just for a second. Looks like not everybody's on the same page. They're being a little bit hesitant, taking a little bit more damage than they need to. Rama taking a little bit as well, and now it's the enemy team picking it up as well. The Fire Giant down to half HP. Neither team wants to commit. Both of them a little bit hesitant right now.
Yeah, it'll be a little interesting to see what they go for first as they choose to take the Pyromancer, the easier objective of the two to take. But that leaves time for the Spirit of the Nine Winds to come
Oh
out hitting
no!
nobody.
Not a target in range for that, and Athena dashes into the Ragnarok, taken down low, but gets the taunt off for the damage, and it'll be Jaragon falling early. Sadis trying to be chased out, but not going to fall for right now, and it's instead Erlong trying to do the damage in the backline. Die violently, very low, looking to be chased as well, trying to finish this one off, but Robin Flair just struggling to find his targets, but it will be Domim finally getting very low, and Rama in the air was able to finish that one off, and Crucifix didn't managed to do it instead, but Die Violently wants to win this one all on his own. He was low, but now he's coming back in on the back line. Takes down one, but not able to take down the other. Waddle winning that 1v1, and Robin Flair falling as well. Both members from that side falling. It's going to be a 2 for 4 right now, but I think they still have enough to take the Fire Giant, and they certainly have enough to end. These Titan is taking low with these Fire Minions. That Phoenix is about to spawn, but it's only Kashyyykat in position to defend right now.
Yeah, those minions were pouring down the mid lane the whole time that fight was going. The longer those Fire Giant fights go when you have a Phoenix down, the worse it is for the team, who has those Fire Minions
Still
pouring
not going
in.
to end.
And now we see that, they're going to reset.
They still want to reset. I really think they had a good shot at the end right there, is they choose to once again be a little bit hesitant, and we'll see yet another fight over this enhanced Fire Giant. Something we've yet to mention is this Fire Giant essentially determines the game. I mean, you saw right there, I think that could have determined the game, and nobody even got the Fire Giant. This fight is vital to the continuation of this game for both teams. So it's absolutely going to be something you see Daddy Daycare show up once again to defend. But I mean, the key to that fight to me is the Serpent of the Nine Winds just not getting any value.
It came out a little bit early. There wasn't any setup for it. we see earlier how Screwfix was able to get ults off, or Robin was able to get ults off to make sure that the enemy team was CC'd so the Spirit of the Nine Winds can come in and do damage, but there was nothing there. So a little bit of miscommunication coming out of the side of the Phoenix as both teams have started grouping up around fire again.
Yeah, we have a 5v5 once again in this area of the map, and Crucifix going to start this one up, and once again, Waddle gets the damage onto it. This will shred fast as normal with those critical strikes, down to half HP already, and Serpent of the Nine Winds available for that secure. It was early last time. We've got to see it be on the mark this time, and it is. Secures the Fire Giant. We'll see who secures the fight. Robin in a little bit of trouble, and Ragnarok forced out as well. We'll see if Waddle can turn this around, gets the Aegis forced out, and gets some help from his teammates, and Bearded forced to jump out instead. Rama into the air looking for the damage. One snipe, two snipe, three snipes, all members low on the side of Daddy Daycare. They're trying to push Fitch for the end. Robin Flare up in the front line, and all members low from both teams now, so they may take a step back and try and siege instead. But it looks like they're not on the way to back right now. Pings on the Titan coming out. The Winions are on the Titan, and they're pushing to not allow members to back, but they're going to go for it anyways, it looks like. That Titan is low enough to the point where a Serpent of the Nine Winds may be able to take it out, but they're getting picks on the front line instead. Kashakat and Bearded both falling, a 5v2 right now for the side of Fenyx, and they have the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel up and available soon enough, and that might be the end, but it looks like Robin just surpassing the enemies, trying to go in for the end, and they might end up resetting the Titan as well. Too aggressive right now, but the Titan too low for their own good. A back and forth leads to Fenyx taking game number 2.
And those later stage fights in the game, a critical thing happened. The Donzo Burrow died. I know he only had 2 deaths in the game, but those 2 deaths were very important as they came in the later stages. The Donza dies, they get the Fire Giant, they get the Phoenix, they're able to create that pressure with the Fire Minions, and then they win the fight at the Fire Giant with the secure they have, and that's what led them to take the game 2.
So we get game 1, where we get sort of a slow build-up. You know, Fenyx is on the back foot, Daddy Daycare on the front foot pretty much the entire game. A couple free objectives go their way, good zoning. Nobody ever gets a fair fight in game number 1. And then we get game number 2, completely different drafts. We see a Kukulkan come out of nowhere, and we see an arena game played for 36 minutes, 38 minutes. And we get a ton of damage coming out from all members on both teams, and Die Violently still managing to be 12,000 ahead of the next closest player, 50,000 damage in that game despite the loss. I could not be more excited for what we're about to see in game 3. And I'm sure you're excited as well, but we'll bring that to you right after a break. We will don't go anywhere. Stick around. We'll see you in a bit. Welcome back, Smite fans. Sorry for that elongated break. Had a little bit of trouble connecting on some of our players' sides, and we do have a player switch up for this game number 3. The support for Daddy Daycare will be moving into the soul lane. Jaragon moving over there, and we'll be getting Aphrodisiac, a sub in the support role for the side of Daddy Daycare. So now 2 subs on both teams. Definitely going to have an impact on this game 3, but we certainly got a lot of action in game 2, and I'm wondering if we're going to see that same vibe at a game number 3.
Well, Frog, I honestly don't know what's going to happen in the game 3. I mean, in game 1, we saw a dominant performance by Daddy Daycare. Game 2, it was back and forth, and eventually Phoenix was able to pull out the win. And so game 3 for me is a toss-up. I mean,
Wisdom
before
shall
we
be
get
my
into
shield.
the drafts, I give Phoenix a slight edge just because Daddy Daycare had to make that roster change.
Yeah, and we do see a switch up in the bans as well. That Kukulkan that had such an impact for Phoenix in game number 2 getting banned out over that Izanami. And you see right there on the right side, bottom right, that Izanami up until this point has had a 100% pick ban or 100% ban rate against Phoenix. So clearly a comfort pick for them if that ban rate has anything to say for it. But we don't see them go for it. Instead, we see the exact same top 3 total picks as we saw in game number 2, but this time we've swapped sides.
Yeah, and I think, with the setup they had from last game, I think this will be a Cerberus support in an Ardio solo. just so the Cerberus can set up that big mid lane ult that worked so well for Phoenix. Even though the Kukulkan was banned out, there are still lots of gods available for them to play in the mid lane, like a Tiamat or a Persephone or a Morgan Le Fay, none of which have been banned or picked yet.
Yeah, still a lot of priority mages up on the board for both teams, but it looks like Daddy Daycare hovering this Rama despite the fantastic performance that Die Die violently. I keep forgetting his name. I don't know how I can. As he got a 16 kill game last game, top damage by a mile, and choosing to go back to the Ramba that he found some success on in game number one. But we do see, and we'll get a chance to talk about that Thanatos in a second. But the Izanami is what I want to bring to the table because that does get locked in almost immediately for the side of Phoenix.
I'm not surprised here, with Izanami definitely being a comfort pick of Phoenix's, and Izanami being good in the meta with the bow build right now. I thought it was going to be picked in the top two, but it made it to the last pick of the first phase, and so far I'm kind of favoring Phoenix's draft.
Yeah, they do certainly have those two strong guardians up at the top of their draft, but we'll start to see the band come out and they get a chance, another chance to focus on these mages, Tiamat and Raijin coming out so far for both teams because no mid laners picked up on either side quite yet, and instead we see the jungler focus towards the side of Daddy Daycare. That Thanatos, I'm surprised we're seeing a Thanatos pick of all picks prioritize this early when other top junglers like Gilgamesh and Kamazots are available.
It surprises me as well, is because especially with game two, going into so late in stages, Thanatos kind of falls off late. He sort of becomes an alt bot basically. He ults in the air and tries to land on someone, and so he doesn't get as much value late as an auto attack based jungler would, like in Osiris.
And we do see another auto attack based jungler in the Erlong Shen banned out from the Daddy Daycare. Weren't happy with Robin Flair playing that one in game number two, and we'll get the Sobek ban out of the side of Phoenix. Once again, another targeted ban towards that game one pickup. But we still have some roles yet to be seen. Mid lane on both sides yet to be picked, and I would expect this Athena to go back to support, so potentially a solo laner still needing to be picked for Daddy Daycare, but we'll see that mid laner first. Soul getting locked in for Phoenix.
Uh, I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked. Persephone is still open. With this late in the draft, Persephone is still open.
Yeah, Persephone has been the third mage or the third ban in that first phase of bans for Daddy Daycare for games one and game two. They choose to leave it open in this particular case, and for good reason. Persephone not a favored pick, I guess, for the mid laner on the side of Phoenix. Commodity choosing to go towards that soul instead, a pick that we has definitely seen a bit of play, and I'm interested to see their objective shred potential with this now double ADC composition.
It differs very from the last composition they had, where they had that big ultimate secure. Soul does have a little bit of that in her kit, but what they really do best is that shredding with all those auto attacks, as we see the side of Daddy Daycare pick up a Ra and a Sun Wukong.
Yeah, they will lock in their mid laner as well, and maybe that pocket Sun Wukong you were talking about a little bit earlier, locked in towards the later end of the draft. And we'll see the Fenrir picked up for the side of Phoenix. So just as the side of Daddy Daycare had those two large CC ultimates in the side of Cerberus Fenrir last game, now we're going to see Phoenix run back that exact same type of composition. Three of those picks remain the same, different ADC, different mid laner, but same idea, I think.
You can definitely tell that they want to, pick a target, and in this case, it's gonna have to be Die, right? Because it seems like no matter what he's playing, he's carrying the team.
Yeah, I will say that we did see some sparks from Waddle towards the end of that game number two. I think he was relatively quiet in game number one, even quiet for the first half of game number two. But man, that triple kill on the Phoenix defense and a huge 1v1 secure victory during a tower siege later on in the game against Die Violently. Waddle having some serious success towards the later half of game two, and now with this potentially signature Izanami, I'm really hoping to see him pop off. But we get a chance to take a look at the comps here once again. Now we've got all five picks on both sides. I think we have a real good sense of how Phoenix's comp is going to play. We've seen almost the exact same composition in game number two, have some success in some fights, but ultimately not able to take the game. But it's Daddy Daycare that have fundamentally shifted their composition around. And it's really these last three picks that sort of catch my eye. I mean, none of these three picks I would put in the top half of the meta in their respective roles right now.
Definitely not, but I think they may be taking a play out of Phoenix's book. You have Ra, a big mage ultimate for secure. You have the Athena taunt for setup, and hey, even if the Ra ultimate doesn't kill them, you have a Thanatos that can come execute them.
Yeah, and they do definitely have some setup for that Raw Ultimate, as you mentioned. So we'll see if they're able to capitalize on that. But I'm interested now specifically in these duo lanes. Something that we've seen a good bit of over the past two games is this fighting, right? We've seen some back and forth in these two duo lanes, and now we have what I believe to be Cerberus Izanami, if Cerberus does go to that support role, up against Rama and Athena. Rama and Izanami both known for those auto attacks that are able to clear the entire wave, go through the entire wave. And so it may be the Athena versus Cerberus and who is able to help their ADC gain more pressure. Who do you think has the advantage in that lane?
Well, I'm gonna have to give it to the side of Athena just because of the taunt. I mean, the Cerberus's main clear is gonna be his breath, and with the Athena taunt, you can delete that ability basically, and you get the CC. So the Rama's gonna be able to freely put poke into the Cerberus, and um, the Izanami is gonna be able to clear wave extremely well. But I think that if the Cerberus isn't careful, that he might just get first blooded.
Well, we'll be able to see that how that matchup goes in real time here as we get a chance to jump right into game number three. I think our rolls as predicted, as not predicted, excuse me. Sadist choosing to go onto this RDO, and so the Cerberus ends up in the solo lane. Are you a fan of the switch up, or would you rather see the RDO over there in the solo lane?
I think Ardio works better in the solo lane than a support. I think that she's so dominant in the solo lane. In support, you typically think of more peeling than engaging, but it can definitely work for them. Um, but I don't mind the Cerberus into the Wukong matchup, especially because the Cerberus is going to naturally negate some of that healing the Wukong gets in his ult.
Absolutely, that passive definitely being a big counter towards that Sun Wukong ultimate if he's goes up into the airs. Both solo laners starting off the same. That ranged as mass that we've seen be so popular in recent memory as we get some trading out here in the mid lane. Robin Flair falling a bit low, and we get a chance to talk about his Fender, not a known auto attack jungler on this Fender, and instead more of a perhaps a setup jungler, and typically known for building that hybrid build even out of the jungler role. So a little bit different from what Robin has played in the past two games. Do you think he might struggle trying to have an impact on this pick?
I mean, I think Fenrir is in such a good spot in the meta that, it's very easy to, press one, jump in, get a good Ragnarok off, and then just leave the rest of your team. So I think as long as he builds tanky and he builds properly, he's going to find success.
Certainly easy to do. Certainly easy to press one in that Fenrir role. So some potential there. But we actually see a gank over here in the soul lane. Excuse me, Fenrir or Thanatos expending that blink relic over in the soul lane, and he won't be able to finish off that kill. Cerberus forced back to base a little bit early, and might be the blue invade instead. Bearded looking for this, and Fenrir not on the way quite yet. So they will give Sun Wukong some of this early pressure, and this is what we saw in game two, but from the other side, it was Phoenix putting the pressure over here on this solo side, and now Daddy Daycare have started over there instead.
Yeah, I think that's going to be maybe the focus of the early game here. Is we saw the solo lane definitely play an impact in game two for the side of Phoenix, and so putting the servers behind is should be a priority of yours. But we take a look at the builds, and again, the RDO is not going Gauntlet of Thebes.
Yeah, going into that breastplate once again, and yet again, I can't give a huge complaint about it. I mean, if you're gonna build breastplate, if you're gonna build 20% CDR in a first item on a support character, and for my money, it's got to be one of three characters. It's got to be Athena, RDO, or maybe Kepri, because I just like Kepri with CDR. But on these two characters, if you're going to build CDR on some support characters, these are certainly the ones to be doing so. Getting six abilities off faster, I mean, not something to complain about.
I mean, being able to press more buttons than your opponent is always the way to go. As the Fender comes in, is not gonna hit the jump.
Not able to get anything over here as Rama has just enough mana to dash away towards his tower, but Fenrir might meet Bearded in the jungle here. Thanatos has the level advantage and might want to take this fight. You see him stepping up just a little bit. Some pings coming out on the map, but it looks like this red buff will just be secured. And we get a chance to talk about this mid lane matchup as Soul, you saw right there, pushing Ra back under his tower. Soul having pressure in this matchup, I think, is to nobody's surprise. But definitely some different picks here from, I think, both sides. I mean, I would not compare really Ra and Discordia, and I certainly wouldn't compare Kukulkan and Soul as having the same or even similar, really, playstyle. So some big switch ups from both mid laners.
Yeah, they're definitely not what we saw in game one and two. The thing that I love about Raw, especially as we move towards the later stages of this game, is going to be the effect of his healing. His ability to just throw a heal down onto the tanks from the back line and heal them up for 20 to 25% of their HP is going to make these fire giant fights go more towards the favor of Daddy Daycare if they play their cards right.
Oh, we didn't see Phoenix shy away from building anti-heal in game number two. I'm sure they won't in game number three either, but we see the first engage here from Robin trying to jump in, gets a good stun onto Aphrodisiac, but not able to get anything going after the fact. I think a little bit hesitant to pull the trigger on that Ragnarok, but Thanatos certainly not hesitant to get up into the hovering death, lands onto Robin. Great Ragnarok, just to time it perfectly. Gets the CC immunity, gets the kill, and that triple taunt won't help anybody, but it might put Aphrodisiac in a worse spot than he already was. And now she's down for the count, trying to pull the ultimate out, but won't be in time. Two early kills towards Fenyx.
What a heads up play by Robin to quickly transform using the Ragnarok to gain the CC immunity to negate the stun from Bearded's ult, and then turning around and picking him up to the tower. What a play.
Yeah, I mean, just a fantastic reaction time, able to get that CC immunity and use it perfectly. And we might see another fight over here towards the dual lane. Trying to get a purple invade will be Waddle, and he'll actually be successful. It's been Die Violently having pressure both games, excuse me, so far over in this dual lane. But Waddle putting on a show right now over here in the dual lane on his signature pick in the Izanami, getting that early purple invade. And it looks to me the reason behind this may be Die Violently staying out a little bit too long, too low on mana to effectively defend that.
And we talked about the Athena build a little bit earlier. It's actually going to be first item Contagion. Why? I mean, I get the Raw has healing, but in the early stages of the game, it's not that much.
We do see an engagement over on the solo side before any of that gets started, and it's Jaragon going in, getting the kill successfully, but he'll fall in trade. Now it's Robin versus Aphrodisiac, and no beads on the side of the support. May spell his doom, but no damage coming out from Aphrodisiac, able to get that blink off under the tower, and he'll escape scot-free for now, just a soul laner for soul laner trade. And it's actually that Artio that we see the contagion come out of, and so as you mentioned, they are not shy going into this anti-heal, and I was done talking about this fight, and I hope to be done talking about it, as Aphrodisiac should have been scot-free a while ago, but almost lost her life by sticking around too long. But I agree, this contagion is a little bit off for me. I'm not sure you talked about the mid to late game effectiveness of the raw healing, and I'm not sure you need it in the early game as bad as you need something as efficient as that Thebes, right? We see Thebes from the other support, and we'll likely see it stacked up maybe before this second item even gets finished from the side of Ardio, and I'm not sure this was the right pickup.
I don't think it was the right pickup at all. I mean, even going, if you're not going to get Thebes and you're going to build the T1 breastplate, getting the cooldown is a far better option in my mind.
Well, 8 minutes into the game here, we've seen 3 kills from Fenyx, 1 kill from Daddy Daycare, and a 1,000 gold lead, give or take, on the side of Fenyx. But we'll now see a gank over on the left-hand side, hovering death into the air from the Thanatos. Diving in is die violently, and beads forced out from Waddle, but nobody in range to guarantee enough damage to necessarily get them in the right spot. Waddle will go down to half HP, but they'll essentially be a Thanatos ultimate traded for beads, which not a bad trade at the moment.
It's definitely not a bad trade when you take into account that the Gold Fury has spawned. The Scorpion on the left side of the map has been done. The Gold Fury is up. So when this Athena gets the Thebes stacked up a little bit more, gets a little bit tankier, they can look for another gank onto the Izanami, and once they do, if they get the kill, they can turn straight to the Gold Fury.
That objective being up definitely has all teams' eyes towards that side of the map. We saw some early solo laner rotations both games, and we haven't seen that yet this game, but we actually see a small engagement over on the right side. Forced into the ultimate is Sun Wukong Fenrir on the way over, but Sun Wukong still has that dash available if he wants, if and when he wants to get out, but gonna use the blink instead, and Defender of Olympus on the way. But Fenrir choosing to still engage, getting the Brutalize, finishing the kill early, and picking up the Aphrodisiac with the Ragnarok, and a good stun coming out from Cerberus. We'll see if they have enough damage, but instead it's going to be Bearded helping to finish off that kill, and Hovering Death is already back up on to Crucifix, stunned out. Not enough damage quite yet. Won't have the Scythe back up off cooldown, so just going to be a 1-for-1 for now. Soloer for jungler.
I think Jargon needed to dash away there. I think that, not using that dash and looking maybe blink away and then save it for the re-engage with the Athena ult is probably what ended up what costing him his life. But also a great rotation by Bearded to recognize that, if he rotates to that, it will be outnumbering the enemy team because of that Athena ult. And they were able to pick up Robin on the backside, making it an even trade.
Well, it's now Thanatos being outnumbered towards that blue buff, and look at the lowness of Cerberus's health bar. If you didn't catch it there, about 15 or 30 HP as he's able to successfully take down that kill. So almost a 1-for-1 trade. Bearded overstaying a little bit too long, though, losing his life a bit unnecessarily.
And if we look back towards the build of the RDO, the second item has turned into a Bulwark of Hope, which is interesting. It's not necessarily the magical item I expected. I kind of expected maybe a Heartward Amulet to come out since they do have, a little bit of that magical damage up front with the Athena and the Raw, maybe even getting in there as well. But the shield is going to do a lot. With the recent buffs, I don't hate it.
Yeah, it does seem like this RDO is focused towards that defense early. We did talk about how that Thebes would essentially be stacked up by the time RDO picked up this item, and it pretty much is. So I think we'll still see a relatively even fight when it comes towards this Gold Fury in terms of protection, but we still got to talk about the inefficiency of this build. There's still, I mean, there's 60 of each prot now coming out for Athena in one item, and around 60, I think maybe a little bit above for both of those items in their respective amount of protections. But essentially, the same defense is coming out of 2 items on the side of Ardio, just a little bit more health. Yeah, 60 physical prots, I think a little bit more on Bulwark. Yeah, 80 magical prots there. So 20 more prots and a bit more health coming out of that side, and you get some anti-heal and some CCR in return. But now Athena has double the physical prots essentially, and this aura that protects her teammates. I can't help but side with her build.
The only thing that I could see maybe being a negative of the Athena build is that on the side of Phoenix, they do have 3 magical, and so she doesn't have any magical, but the Cerberus is going to ult the Wukong into the tower, but a good ult is going to save him.
Save his life for now, but chooses to go back in. Does not know the Fenrir is here, and he will fall as a result, but able to pick up the solo kill regardless. A lot of action in this solo lane so far, as neither member falling too far behind the other, just because both have been falling quite a few times. 3 deaths for one of them, 2 deaths for the other one, as we continue to see action over there. And I think we both thought that the action was going to move towards the left side of the map due to this Gold Fury spawning up, but neither team being too hasty to jump into that quite yet.
I think on if I'm daddy daycare right now, I think I want to focus on the left side of the map because the Athena has those extra physical protections, and so she's going to be able to tank that Gold Fury better than the side of Phoenix would be.
Yeah, they do have that small advantage, and looking at those graphs, they also have the gold and the XP advantage in spades right now. So I can't help but think this would be a close fight coming towards the Gold Fury, depending on how these builds favor and how the XP favors. Could go either way. I think it may depend on who gets there first. Right now, neither team looking towards that side of the map. And something else it may depend on is this secure. Once again, we only really get one solid or one known mage secure ability in the form of that raw ultimate.
I mean, the solo definitely could do some damage as we see it's used here to kill the Thanatos, and it's going to be able to secure the kill with the Solar Flare.
Oh my goodness, tons of damage coming out instantly for commodity, essentially a solo kill coming out onto Bearded, not able to get into that ultimate, but that means that he won't have the solo ult for an upcoming fight if that fight chooses to get going a little bit earlier, as we see a level lead for Waddle over here in the dual lane, but not currently having the health lead. This might be a mistake for him to step up a little bit far. We'll wait and see if Die Violently tries to engage, and he does. Misses the first basic and the second, not able to catch it out of. I think if he had canceled Waddle's dash right there initially, he may have been able to pick up the solo kill.
And don't be surprised if Waddle starts to extend his lead, as he's going to be building into crit, and the Rama's not going to have crit online just yet.
Oh, we do see another engagement over in the soul, and this time against Crucifix, putting that ultimate into good use, forcing the Sun Wukong ultimate, but the team is on the way. Sadist on the way, and looks like we're going to be following up with Robin as well, but Crucifix may die in the meantime. Lots of damage coming out from Sun Wukong, and Athena dashing in, but no movement on her side now, just forced into the taunt, and it's Fender on the back end as well, but Thanatos out of nowhere, trying to get the damage off Sun Wukong, and Crucifix forced into rough spots. Both soul laners leaving the fight. Now it's a jungle v jungle, but the scythe off the mark and might be enough to finish it off. That silence will be, and that taunt forced Sadist into a bad spot if Bearded wants to continue the fight, but he'll take his pick and be happy with it. Unless I'm wrong, he chooses to blink in once again, trying to finish this off on his Crucifix, but he's completely alone. His teammates weren't there to back him up. I think he should have backed off, and he's choosing to now. Maybe second thoughts are better than first.
And this is the pressure that those global ultimates provide. You know, Athena being able to come in from anywhere on the map, the Thanatos coming in clutch with his semi-global ultimate, being able to stun the Fenrir off of his backliner. I mean, it was insane.
He does end up saving that engagement essentially for the side of Daddy Daycare, and will even them out just a little bit, get them a little bit closer in the kills, but I can't help but maintain. Hold on, hovering death in the air once again, trying to turn it around and get revenge for the solo kill, but it's a solo kill in return. Commodity once again coming out hot onto this Thanatos.
And this is if you're cash cow right now, this is when you would have wished you saved your ult instead of clearing the wave with it, because that soul was 20% HP and a good raw ult would have turned that around.
Looks like he's going to burn the beats preemptively, not the Ragnarok, but it won't come out later. But he misses. He misses the bite twice.
Doom.
Robin not on the mark with that ultimate. Drops a kill there in the mid lane.
That was Doomlord passive right there, along with raw passive. I mean, he's got so much movement speed right now that he's going to be able to outrun that Fenrir every time.
And it looks like that gives him the opportunity to move towards this left side of the map. Fenrir walking over the Gold Fury, not quite ready to get engaged on it. I swear, every time I think they're going to go over towards this Gold Fury, they end up backing off a little bit and not wanting to engage on the objective. Die Violently will check that one up. He had the same idea I did, but instead it's just going to be Robin in the jungle trying to get some damage off, but Die Violently not afraid to take this fight. Gets Robin down very low, still has some left in the tank as well. No teammates near him though, so maybe a little bit of a rough spot, but Crucifix now rotated over from the soul lane, starting up this Gold Fury, but Izanami not on the same page, certainly not Fenrir. It looks like they're still a little bit hesitant to do this, but Crucifix wants to go in, whether it seems there or not. Blinks in, uses the ultimate, but now maybe in a rough spot. 4 members of each team here as well. Taunt gets 2 members, but Raw Alt nowhere in the vicinity to follow up, and it looks like Die Violently just trying to get some damage off. That Oboe doing a little bit in the backline, but no team super low quite yet. Still, both teams have an opportunity to pull this here, as Thanatos not in the vicinity. So going to be a 5v4 in favor of Fenyx, but Crucifix falling a little bit too low right now, half HP. Raw Ultimate still in the tank. Soul Ultimate going to try and secure Raw Ultimate mark, but Robin Flare falls early on, and it will be Rama in the air, but not able to steal the Gold Fury. Right now, Gold Fury for 1 is the state of this fight, but low members from Fenyx across the board. Look at Izanami trying to get that sneaky back offline, trying to save her damage for the team when they dive her, but Commodity falling instead. And they will be trapped under this tier 1 tower, and it might be a dive. Die Violently, not afraid to be in the front, and he takes a lot of damage for it, almost falling if Waddle had been there to save him, but they still have a lot of full health members and 2 low health members on the side of this Jaragon. Not afraid to dash in, trying to finish off this kill, but not everybody's on the same page. Once again, just a little bit too split up right here. But they're not afraid to finally get it in. Cerberus is back from the base, though, trying to help out his teammates, but one is fallen already. Cerberus with the ultimate yet again will trade out ADC for ADC, and this fight is just never ending. Crucifix with the double kill, might have the triple kill right here if he can finish off Aphrodisiac, but that heal comes out, will give him a little bit of extra power as he tries to escape. Good taunt to cancel out the breath, and it will be Sadis with some CC. I do expect them to clean up this kill eventually if they're able to get that CC off, but a good dash from Aphrodisiac will get him to safety, and I don't know how many died for how many, but I know that Fenyx got the Gold Fury.
And that's the important thing, right? Is that Fenyx got the Gold Fury, and surprisingly, I shouldn't say surprisingly, it was a 5v4, but the Raw Ultimate came out a little bit too late. But they knew the beads were down on the Raw. They know that the Raw is the secure. If they're gonna pull the Gold Fury, they have to be looking for that fight. They have to be looking for the Fenrir to blink in and ult this Raw with no beads and be ready to drop it and engage on them. As Phoenix is gonna pick up this Pyromancer for free.
Worked out in that Gold Fury fight, but may not work out in the future. I completely agree with you. I think if Kashakat is continuing, or if he gets continued to let him free cast, if he's just allowed to use that ultimate, use those long range abilities from range in some of these fights, they're going to struggle to guarantee some of these objectives. But we don't see them struggling to take out that Pyromancer, and Soul having no problem taking down this tier 1 tower in mid. That's the first tower to fall this game over, except in the Soul lane, which has also already fallen. So 1 tower for 1 tower right now on this side of the map. But Thanatos forced into the hovering death, and he will escape for the time being, able to land far, far away from any of that damage coming out. But that's the 3rd time I think we've seen him forced into the ult to try and get away, and every other time it hasn't been successful. He's got to rethink some of his positioning.
Definitely, and just want to highlight something that production pointed out for us is that this RDO has picked up a Mail of Renewal. I mean, I don't know the last time I've seen a Mail of Renewal being picked up in a competitive setting. It doesn't offer that much protections, only 20 of each. The passive is pretty decent, when you take damage, gain stacks, and then you get healed once you get, enough stacks. And it also heals your teammate. I definitely think it's a fun item to play around with, but I don't see how it can fit into a support build.
Well, she's certainly capitalizing hard on that health right now. Has that in every single item she's picked up, and maybe just trying to gain more health for that bulwark shield to come out during the mid game fights. And we do see this Kins from Rama as a result, so maybe not the best build to keep going into that health as a result. But we'll see how that turns out towards the late game fights. One thing I can say for certain is 5 members of both teams over here on this right side of the map. We saw them hesitate to pick up the Gold Fury, but we're not going to see them hesitate here. Thanatos down into the ultimate, forces both relics out from Waddle, and puts the enemy team in
Oh,
some trouble. Robin pulled back in, gets taken down as well as Bearded. 1 for 1 for both sides right now. We'll see if they can hit the final snipe. Not needed as Jaragon finishes that one up. And now it's a 1v1. Kashakat trying to fall down. Commodity in a little bit of trouble as well as Kashakat finishes that one off for a double kill. And it'll continue on. Artemis or Aphrodite. Wow. Artio in a little bit of trouble here as she continues to get chased down. 2nd kill for Die Violently in this fight, and he'll try and get his third as Cerber is forced to jump away. And what a huge fight for Daddy Daycare.
Again, in this team fight, Ra was just be able to sit in the backline and free cast. I mean, he's full health. He has both his relics up. Uh, no one on the side of Phoenix is going on to this Ra, and he's able to pour out damage and healing, and that's why Daddy Daycare won that fight.
Similarly to how we saw in game number one, just the carries able to free cast in the backline as the enemies did a fantastic job of zoning, but we won't see his ultimate up for this Fire Giant. Now Cerberus is back on the way, has some damage for this, and won't be able to trade it, but might be able to get some members. Ultimate forced out. Not able to get members finished, but able to get members low, but it might be Jaragon looking for the kill instead and will find it. Good trade out there, but I gotta respect the attempted steal from the side of Crucifix.
Yeah, I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. Game three situation, you're trying to make sure that, the enemy team can't get the fire giant. And, trading your solo laner isn't the worst thing in the world. They still have a lot of T1s to push, so you're not in danger of losing the game, quite yet off the fire giant. So definitely not a horrible idea from Crucifix.
Well, taking a look at the game state right now, we're pretty much even in kills, but and even in gold as Daddy Daycare were behind up until this point and have evened it out with that Fire Giant and with that fight win. But we now see them grouping up likely for this siege, and Waddle throwing out the ultimate and might be in some danger now. A little bit too far pushed up. Thanatos going to try and find it with the hovering death. Invisibility waiting to wear off, and he does find it. Gets the sight taken out of half HP, and Jaragon looking to finish this one off, but won't need it as Aphrodisiac has the damage guaranteed. Ragnarok popped under the tower, but it won't be Robin finding a target. Instead, just wasting an ultimate as the enemy team or his teammates were not ready to follow that one up, and they should get this tier 2 tower essentially for free.
Especially considering the fact that the Soul was in mid farming up and wasn't with the rest of her team to sort of defend these T2s. But I think that, at this point, the enemy team has Fire Giant. If you lose the T2s, I think that's the best case scenario. You keep your Phoenixes up, you keep the ability to farm, to come back in this game and get ready for, a later fight around this Fire Giant.
Yes, they I think are lucky that Daddy Daycare don't choose to go for that left side Phoenix, but Sadis not feeling lucky right now, taken out very low earlier on and just not choosing the right pathing to come into the lane there, taken down for essentially nothing once again. And now it's a 5v3 for a brief period of time. They may choose to try and push down this mid Phoenix because of it. Aphrodisiac not hesitating to dash, but you see the pings coming out, wanting to play disciplined, cleaning up all these towers off the map is Daddy Daycare, really wanting to bring this Titan down to bare bones HP before they try and siege.
And I think this is a good call coming out from Daddy Daycare. You get all of the towers, you can hit the Pyromancer up on your way back to base, spend all that gold, finish off your builds. The Ram is close to finishing his build. You're going to be looking to upgrade starters, and then you're going to look to group up around this, a second Fire Giant. And if they get this next Fire Giant, I think it could be game if they, get a successful Phoenix Siege.
Well, they're backing now, likely have a lot of gold in their pockets, so we're likely to see some item spikes come out here. Pridwin for Athena, Dominance for Rama. We'll see what happens on the side of the Raz. He leaves base likely with just a upgraded relics as we see him upgrade both of those. So some spikes across the board, but now I want to look at this damage. It feels like we've seen Die Violently have, I'll say, a slow game compared to his game two performance, if I can say that, but still finding his way to the top of the player damage charts. But it's really been Jaragon that has surprised me. Typically, the support for this team moving into that solo role and playing the Sun Wukong, he has had quite a game.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the question marks for me coming into this game. As a support, you sort of take on more of a leadership role within your team, and moving over into the solo lane where you don't, interact with your teammates as much can definitely impact the way the team fights go. But we saw so much focus on the solo lane that maybe it didn't matter.
It looks like it won't matter how Beardy gets up into the ultimate, taken down early on, but they do manage to get the Phoenix. The members of Phoenix not here in time to able to push that one back, and so they'll trade a member for the bird, and I think that's a good trade, especially as their Fire Giant falls off.
And an interesting thing to note with this Athena is that she elected to go for the Pridven over a Spectral, and that might be the death of her when she starts to try and dive these backlines. I mean, those Izanami crits are gonna chunk her, and even if you're not gonna finish, or even if you're not gonna get a Spectral, maybe you upgrade your starter item instead to share those protections with your team. I assume you get the Sentinels upgrade for that. But interesting build paths coming out of both supports these game.
Yeah, we'll see where these upgrades come, whether it's going to be Sentinel's Embrace or uh, healing on those minions instead. But we also saw the Stone of Binding, a little bit of another interesting item coming out of Aphrodisiac. But certainly, I would say the more normal build by classic standards, as opposed to the RDO build. But regardless of how those two shape up, we'll see both of those members here towards the Fire Giant, despite the fact that they have a Phoenix down. And look at those fire minions so close to the Titan right now, just about to push in. And they're still here, ready to push into this Titan. And it looks like Artio, the support, has been the one to back, but she won't be able to do a ton of damage to these Titans. I'm not sure if she'll be enough, but Soul will back to help her out as three members still remain to help fight this Fire Giant falling low. Crucifix aware of it happening, but not in quite yet, waiting for the steal opportunity and won't get it in time, and Daddy Daycare will secure the objective despite some close steal attempts from Fenyx.
Yeah, I think that if you're a Kashyyykat in this situation, I think that you need to ult that fire giant. You know that the enemy team is lurking around. You're a raw, you have 20% cooldown in your build. That ultimate is already on a low cooldown. Ult for the secure to, guarantee that you get this fire giant, because if Phoenix get the fire giant there, I mean, they can totally come back in this game. They get the fire giant, they get a team wipe, and but now they have to defend their Phoenix.
Well, they're trying to engage it right now. Half HP falling very low, already down to 0 HP as it's them on the fight as well. Red members engaging on blue members, but blue members forced back out, and it's the Fenrir in trouble right now, trying to run away, as will Crucifix, but he won't be successful. Those Rama Snipes securing that kill, and they secured the Phoenix as well, but the Fire Minions already in on the Titan, as well as Thanatos and the ultimate will secure one kill. Commodity trying to trade it back, but not enough, as Daddy Daycare comes out and wins the set 2-1.
Great games coming out tonight from exciting Smite, and I'm so glad that I was able to cast this game with you, Frog.
No, absolutely. Joined by Rogue here. Very, very enjoyable game. I think both to watch and to cast. I think that arena game, especially that we saw in game number two, was a ton of fun. But we definitely have some things to look forward to for both of these teams. Remember, this is only week two, so still a ton to talk about and how these teams are going to perform as we go forward into the league. I think Die Violently has proven himself to be a trouble player for the enemy team, consistently at the top of the damage charts. So other teams are definitely going to have to come out with game plan strategies for him. And on the other side, Commodity, I think proving himself on a number of mid laners, especially in game number two, game number three, coming out and really having a field day, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're Phoenix, I think there's a lot of positives to take away from this set. Game two was back and forth for a while, and they managed to win it. Game one was more in the favor of Daddy Daycare, as well as game three was, but there's definitely a lot to build with on the side of Phoenix.
I couldn't agree more. Is that'll almost do it for us here for tonight. We just watched the set, Daddy Daycare take that one 2-1, and we'll be right back with one of their players to have an interview. Welcome back, Smite fans. As promised, we have an interviewee from the side of Daddy Daycare. I'm still Frog. I'm still joined by Rogue, and we have Jaragon with us, the support in games 1 and 2 and the solo laner in game number 3. Jaragon, welcome to the interview. Congrats on the win.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, Jerry, on the first question here, what were you feeling going into game three, knowing that you had to switch from support to solo?
Honestly, I felt great. Solo's my main role, and I've kind of missed it. I do like support a lot, and I think I do a pretty good job of it usually. Maybe not so much that game too, but it felt nice to be back in the solo lane.
And that second question I have is actually about that second game. I feel like you guys had a really dominant victory, it felt like, in game number 1. And so
Yeah.
for game number 2 to suddenly turn on its head like that, I mean, were you guys having doubts going into that game, or what was the mindset like?
Into game 2?
Yeah, I mean, during game 2.
During game 2, it was just we had so much momentum going from game 1, and it all switched up, and I think it just got a little bit weird. I don't know. Like, I didn't expect them to really burst us that hard that early, and I think we got caught off guard, if anything, especially me. I got caught off guard, and I didn't play the best game. But yeah, game 3, we still had that going for us.
In game number 3, we saw a lot of action in the solo lane early. Was that maybe the plan from the start with you switching over there, making sure to, get yourself some action, get yourself comfortable in the role?
I think that's just I've played more solo than anything else in Smite, and I think I slotted in nicely. I like to play aggressive. I like to do a lot of diving. I just like to play the pressure game in Smite, and I thought I could do that in the solo lane really well, and it worked out. I thought the lane was fun.
Well, we certainly saw you pop off there in game number 3 with that pocket Sun Wukong pick. So
Yeah.
you absolutely popped off. I want to give you a chance here. Do you have any shout outs to make towards your teammates that might have also popped off tonight?
Definitely our ADC die in that game too. 19-2, that was crazy. It's unfortunate that we couldn't win the game from them, but the rest of the team as well, especially Kashyyyk coming in as a sub, only playing with us a couple times and just going right into the mid lane. And I think she did pretty well for her first go at it. And obviously, I mean, I love Dom in the solo lane as well. It's too bad he couldn't be there for the game 3, but I've got his back if he ever needs to sub out or anything like that. But yeah, just shout outs to the whole team. They're all really good people, and I love playing Smite with them.
Well, thank you so much, Jaragon. You heard him here from Daddy Daycare once again taking the set tonight 2-1. That'll do it for us tonight, but we still have more games this weekend. Notably, tomorrow, Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, we have Imaginary Bishops versus Gilgamesh incoming, and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, a little bit later in the night, if you stick around, we'll have Cursed Cowboys versus the Wingers. 2 big matches coming up tomorrow, and even more if you stick with us through the weekend. So if you enjoyed this one, make sure to come out more often as the weekend commences, and we will see you next time.
Does manage to beat away.
That's gonna be doggy out.
There is one
chains too.
That's gonna be Argus. And that's
Okay,
out.
he smells him out.
I
He goes
realize
there. And a good Kraken will steal the Oni Fury.
I don't think so. Popping on it.
He steals it with the national.
Steals it.
Kappa just
Dookie's in trouble. The heart bomb.
he is in trouble, but down there by Cowboy Chip.
No!
He can't do that. But Skipper
But he
tries
can't-
to go after it.
He can't win the auto. No tilting. You're all just pumped up, ready for game number 2. Y'all talking to each other.
But this Fenyx under siege. Fenyx is at half. Jobek taken out. Section Cannon taken out by Turnabog.
Haley, you still don't win that fight. No.
And that means they're leaving this emoji up that Breezy played in game 1, which I thought looked really good. I think he pilots it very well.
Yeah, 2 halves. There you go. We got those 2 brain cells. We can talk about 2 different things now. Well, we working on.
And Zero Easy Does It is going to be focused on, and we're going to see a quadra kill.
And he looks like he's gonna go down. Haley did use the ult already?
No! He's insane!
And now, one's going to be subject to the Rama ult, both on target. What a